evening, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. This is the Franklin County Fiscal Court, January 28th, 2021 work session. We thank you for being here. Before we get started in our agenda, we're going to be led tonight by Dr. Scott Rollins from the Highland Christian Church in prayer. Dr. Rollins, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, let us pray together.
Yes, sir.
Oh God, we thank you for this evening, and we thank you for the gathering of our fiscal court. We pray that you will bless each person in their work this evening. We thank you for the talents and the resources that they offer as they serve the people of our community. Grant them wisdom, grant them courage to decide fairly and with compassion for the benefit of everyone and to the detriment of no one. May their work in our community guide us toward a better future. Amen.
Amen. Dr. Rollins, thank you so much, and God bless you for what you do in this community and helping us be a better place. But before you go, I want to say this, as I look outside and I remember, and I don't want to hear anything from you, Tommy Russell, about old age, but I remember as a youngster, when it would snow like this, the best place in Franklin County to go sleigh riding was at a place called the Highland Christian Church down a great hillside. Do people still do that, sir?
Oh yeah, there was about 40 people there today. So
all right.
I didn't see you there though.
You probably won't see me there anymore. But anyway, that was the spot in Frankfurt to go sleigh riding.
Well, it still is.
That's wonderful to hear. God bless you, sir. Thank you so much for helping our community. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Okay, the first item on our work session is a presentation, discussion with Jason Eckert, the senior resident installer with Finley Engineering. And Mr. Eckert, you're on. Thank you very much for being here tonight. And if you could give us an update in what is going on with the cable installation in the 6th District Magisterial District. And so I know there'll be some questions, but just kind of give us a brief overview of how that's taking place. And I don't see you, Mr. Eckert. Do you have a video and an audio?
I should just have audio right now.
That's fine. We'll go ahead, sir.
Okay, so we started in Jefferson Town, and we're working towards Frankfurt. Right now, we are on Devil's Hollow Road working. We're waiting on permits from KYTC to continue on the state highways within Franklin County. And we are waiting on the make ready from Frankfurt Plant Board to attach to their existing poles. We've got one permit right now that's started from Devil's Hollow, and it crosses over into Sand Ridge subdivision. We're just waiting on the rest of the permits for
that. Mr. Eckert, if you don't mind, I'm going to start the question. I know Squire Moore has some questions, and then the magistrates may have other questions too. Let me ask you this: as you're moving through with the cable installation, will people be? There is huge concern. I know Squire Moore knows this. I got a call the other day for Wi-Fi, internet, broadband in the area that you're in right now. Can you give us an update on how what you're doing, will that affect any of the residents in that area in a way of getting broadband?
Okay, so this fiber optic is for Great Plains Communications. Right now, they are running it for cell towers, for the Verizon cell towers. They're not looking at providing any service to anybody just yet, but there will be 172 extra fibers that they might be able to lease out to providers, but it should not affect anybody's current service, but we are not providing service right now.
Okay, so you say there's a possibility that in the near future it could provide service?
Yes, they will be open to leasing dark fibers out to somebody if they want to provide a service to local people.
Awesome. Squire Moore?
Most of my questions have been answered, Judge. I know originally one of the guys in charge of getting the easements told a couple people that they would be able to hook on, or they misunderstood him or something. But now I think everybody understands they will not be able to hook on to this. And there were some discrepancies out my way about easements, and most of those have been resolved. And that's a good thing.
Okay. Mr. Eckert, I'll come back with another question, and there'll probably be some more in just a moment. Is this being funded through the state, federal government, privately? How is this being funded?
It's privately. Great Plains Communications is from Blair, Nebraska. They acquired an interconnect in the area, and they're actually building the fibers for Verizon. Verizon is paying them for a certain amount of fibers, but it is funded by Great Plains Communications.
Okay. Any other questions, Squires? Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. Just a quick one. Sir, are you saying Great Winds Communication? I just want to make sure I'm understanding the name of the organization. Thank you.
It's Great Plains. It's GREATPAPLAINS.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Mr. Eckert, thank you very much for coming on and in informing us of what's going on. There is excitement. As Squire Moore can tell you that when your cable's going in the ground in an area that needs broadband desperately, there is a lot of excitement. And so we hope in the near future that that people could hook on as soon as possible. So I want to say thank you. We wish you the best, and we really appreciate you coming on tonight and informing the public. God bless you.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is an update from Dr. Tommy Russell on the TIF Downtown Master Plan update. Dr. Russell, welcome. Well, maybe. There he is.
10,000 starving comedians in this world, Judge. Now there's 10,001. Thank you very much.
At least I'm one.
Yes, sir. So do you want an update on parts B and C and the TIF, or do you want an update on the downtown master plan, or both?
Well, let's Squire Tracy answer that.
Both, please.
Okay. All right. So the downtown master plan, as you all know, it was adopted in December of 2018.
You cut off, Tommy. I don't know how. You cut off. There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So it was adopted in 2018. What came out of that was 6 major project recommendations: Capitol Plaza, South Waterfront, Broadway, improved connectivity, downtown identity, public arts, and bourbon cultural tourism. I can give an update on those things. Let me look at my notes real quick. So obviously the Capitol Plaza, parcels B and C, everybody's aware of that and where we stand. And I'll give another more up-to-date overview of that in just a second. But the South Waterfront, which is Ann Street on that side of the river in South Frankfort, the vegetation was cleared to create an overlook per se in that area by West Banco. We had a consultant come in, we put out a proposal for Blanton's Landing, which runs from, behind Crumbo's, for everybody that's familiar, all the way down to almost the Frankfurt Boat Club. We got some feedback. We pulled some different plans in, and right now, the engineering group, or there were 3 groups that have this plan now, and they're starting to put some feasibility numbers into this thing, so there won't be sticker shock that comes back with this when we get it, because really for the concept and the conceptual ideas that are out there, we don't have a clue how much it's going to cost. Anything you do on the river is probably 4 times more than it would be on dry land. So that plan is put together. It's out there. Like I say, there were 3 different groups, I believe, that had a part of this to take care of that engineering study and look at and to give us back a ballpark figure kind of on the cost of that. I think Eric Cockley and Blair Hecker have a video of that, and it can probably be found either on the city's website or their I believe it's on Blair's page on the city's website. So if we need to look at that video, you can find that there, and that's got that design phase on there. As far as the pedestrian and the bike trails go, we let the bid for the thoroughbred trail, and we have a bridge meeting for the Broadway Street Bridge. I think it's February the 5th at 10 a.m. So for all of those that want to get on there, it's KYTC is doing that meeting. If any of y'all want that link or don't have that, I'm sure you can go to their website and get it, but if you'll let me know, then I'll send it to you. And that is to discuss the options for that bridge. And again, that's the connectivity across the river and what we're going to do with the bridge and the dollars and the ideas and all those kinds of things. So the Broadway, like I said, the Broadway, the thoroughbred trail, that project was let. Colston Paving has got the project, and I believe it should begin with weather permitting. So just as soon as they can get going on it, it's ready to go. As far as improved connectivity, those were one of the things that was brought up in that thing. Clinton and Miro has been converted to 2-way. Main Street is now 2-way. 4-way stops were put in at different places. And then with parcel B and C, we're going to extend Washington Street to Clinton, and then from Clinton to Miro. So that should improve the flow of traffic into the downtown area. Obviously, the bourbon cultural tourism, and Miss Robin, I'm sure, had a big play in that. We support those agencies and the programs that they're pushing forth. And I think since 2019, we've probably had 4 bars and restaurants open. I know probably the last 2. There was one on the mall, and then maybe Sig's and Goodwood. Since we started this project in 2018, I think there have been 4 come on. I can't remember the other one. The other thing that I was going to mention is that the Wilkerson Street Trestle for R.J. Corman, the paperwork is being filled out now to get that. They talked about murals and painting that and all kinds of things. And I think we have decided that to go the route that Shelbyville went. They created type of a canvas covering for both sides of that trestle. And from my understanding, and I haven't seen it, that you can't tell the difference whether that's painted on there or whether it's canvas, but that's the direction we're going to go with that. Seemed like it was more economically feasible than painting that and repainting that and painting it again. So, but the paperwork is being filled out with RJ Corman now, and they allowed it for Shelby County or Shelbyville, and I can't imagine that they won't allow it for us. The other thing that popped up was lighting on the St. Clair Mall. We talked about the zigzag lighting and the lighting, the different types of lighting going across there to make that a more attractive area. Obviously, the issues you run into if you cross the mall with lights is what do you do with fire apparatus if they come through there and have to set up a ladder truck or something like that. You know, we burned a good portion of the mall one time when I was still in the fire department. So I think we're looking more at going down the sides of the streets now. I talked to Miss Katie the other day and Rebecca, and we're looking at more going down through the trees and that just keeping it to each side of the street to create some lighting, generally during the dark hours to 11 o'clock or something like that, or 12 o'clock or whenever it's feasible to take that out. Any questions for those? I'm trying to do this in 10 minutes, boss.
All right, Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Tommy. Yeah, one, in regards to the TIF, where are we / the city in regards to the TIF? When is that going to be presented? When is it going to get out? Is there conversations going on? Who's the point of contact?
Yes. Yes to all of those. It's there are a lot of moving parts to this parcel B and C project. Okay. This coming Wednesday, February the 3rd, 5 o'clock, CRM is going to do a presentation to the city commission. I would suggest that all of you all watch that presentation. I know you've seen it once, but I've got 4 brand new elected officials, and we thought it best that they come in and present again. I think Craig is going to do the presentation, so that will certainly help everybody. Now, as far as the TIF goes, Squire, the development district that has been identified, were like 2 minor things that I saw on that, and that's finalized. The participation agreement, which is what brings you all into play, the library, the health department, whatever taxing agencies there are out there. That is in draft form right now. We hope to get that ready in the next 2 weeks or 10 days. Really, the issue for this whole project is we are waiting on the transit center grant. $5.5 million coming from the feds. Ms. Rebecca Hall still feels good about the grant. So we are pushing forward just like we're assuming we're going to get the grant, and then we'll figure out and go from there.
In regards to the 2018 master plan, what projects the projects that were identified as the low-hanging fruit, which of those projects have been completed? You touched on the 6 major projects, but what about all the little smaller ones that were identified and said that could be done? Has any of those been done?
I don't know about the smaller ones, Squire. I think that the trestle, that's an easy one. I think that's going to get done real soon, real quick. I think the thoroughbred trail, that one's going to go pretty quick because that's been let, and that company is ready to start right now at the bottom of the hill. I'm just looking at my notes and I see that 10 guiding principles, in 6 major projects, but as far as some of the little ones go, I don't know if there are specifics that you want. All you gotta do is send it to me and I'll get you an answer to those. This was a little before my time, so I had to do some research on this thing.
Okay, no, I get it. And then I know it's been quite some time ago, the county went in and helped finance the wayfinding project. Can you tell us where we're at on that?
No.
Okay.
No, I'll just get that to you. I'll send it back.
Okay. Okay.
And I
Thank you.
apologize.
No, you're good.
I can't, I know enough to speak about it to be stupid, but I don't want to say something that is incorrect and give you the information that's not right. So I would rather just drag that out and send it to you specifically. Okay.
Thank you.
Tommy, and Scotty, let me ask Robin. Robin, you were part of the wayfinding group. Can you speak to that, an update on that?
From what I asked Rebecca Hall within the last, let's say, month or 6 weeks, my understanding was that the city went back to the company that originally did the plan with cost estimates to revise that, because in the interim, if you remember when it was started, the convention center existed and all of that, and then parcel B came along and some changes had to be made. So the estimate for that specialty, I call it the specialty wayfinding signage for the downtown area, had to be re-estimated based on some of those changes. And the number that they got from that company was higher than had been allocated. So she was trying to negotiate. Tell me, you may know more detail on that, but it was a costing thing, as I understand.
Yeah, I think it was way more than several $1,000s more than was anticipated on that, Squire, but I don't want to throw out a number that's incorrect, but we did have that conversation, and it was economics on that, and we were surprised, to say the least. It's sticker shop there. I got a number in my head, but I'm not going to say it because I'm not sure it's right. But they went back and were revisiting that to see if we could come up with another alternative to that.
Thank you.
Squire Muller, I saw your hand up earlier.
Thank you, Judge. Hey, Tommy, thank you for presenting tonight. I was just going to ask, on that bump out on Ann Street, I believe near West Banco, I think they cleared the trees. Are they still planning on arching that out like that was originally designed?
In the design phase on that, the last one I saw, I don't remember that arch out, but there was going to be a walkway or something along through there to get up and down the riverbank. Anything is still possible right now. Like I say, I needed a number to throw out to everybody to see what we're going to look like when we try to find funding for this thing, or how we're going to fund that. So looking at the design phase of that, I don't remember that on there, to be honest with you, Squire, but there was a sidewalk going down through there, whether it's floating or whether it's attached to the road or to the rock wall or something like that. That design is there for connectivity purposes.
Okay, and then one thing about the TIF, and thank you for that. So how often, I guess, are you all talking to the proposed developer? I mean, I'm just curious, is the new mayor kind of leading that charge, or who's in on that, please?
The mayor and I talked to the developer 3 days ago. The mayor and I have met with him at least 3 times, along with the staff that's involved in this plan for parcel B and C. Ms. Ross, Mr. Cockley, Ms. Hall, Katie Beard, generally is the team Frankfurt, City Frankfurt that's in on that. So Craig has been open with us. We have been open with him. The dialogue is good. We are moving forward just like everything's going to be a go. And that's why I asked him to present to everybody again, since I've got so many new officials, elected officials on our side of the river, that I thought would be a good thing to bring everybody up to speed. And I don't think it would hurt you all again to hear it again either, sir.
No, and I appreciate that. That's what I was getting ready to say with the new officials. That's one of the things when we had that joint meeting that we were kind of adamant about, as far as keeping us at the table, just to keep communication going. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Tommy, do you have any kind of approximate timeline when you foresee from CRM, what TIF they're going to need, the monies they're going to need, and how we're to move from that? And then possibly, do you agree, or do you think it would be apropos that the two governing bodies, the city and county, come together in a joint meeting for that discussion?
Judge, most of this project is going to hinge on this parking structure. How we finance that, how we move forward with that. We have asked the state for a 9-month extension on that. We've been in contact with the state. I can think of at least 3 meetings we've had. They support the project. We don't get any pushback from them about not granting us an extension because things during COVID slowed a little bit, change of administration, all of those things. So, and then until that federal transit grant comes in and after that's done and we decide on the financing on that and Mr. Turner decides on the development on this entire development and we get to see it, then we'll have to come together and to figure out how best to finance this. If we're going to extend Washington Street to Clinton to Miro, that's another part of this thing that somebody will have to finance. So there are a lot of moving parts in this thing right now. And sometimes it's doesn't go as fast as we want, but still it is what it is. And I'm dealing with 3 different governments. So sometimes it's a little more frustrating than what I want, but still we are acting like we're moving forward and everything's going to be a go. And I think it will work out. I think we will get this done.
Great. Thank you, Tommy, for your optimism, and we hope so too. We think it will too under the leadership. And so you'll just keep us informed when we're getting close to those points so we can all work together and hopefully come together and make those huge decisions that will affect how quickly this will move. Absolutely,
Judge. I would love to say that I could give you all a number that we need to look at. But until we know the numbers, I could tell you I need 25% of the TIF money, but I don't know what the cost is going to be. So until we start to nail down some of those final figures on the rest of that project, we've got 4 years to activate the TIF. Or we can activate it sooner or later. We'll all have to sit down and have those conversations to see what's best economically the most feasible for all of us involved.
All right. Are there any other questions for Mr. Russell? Okay. Don't see any others. Tommy, thank you so much for being on. We appreciate it. Thank you for your work.
Okay. If y'all have got any specific questions, send them to me and I'll get you the answers. I'm sorry that I didn't know the answers to some of those, y'all.
Sure. All right. Thank you. All right. The next item is an update on tourism using the COVID funds that were given to tourism. We've got Robin Antonucci on. Hey, Robin, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Squires. Good to see all of you this evening. I just wanted to give you a quick update. And again, thank you for the $15,000 of CARES money you gave us a couple of months ago. What we have done with that so far is we have allocated $5,000 for the Franklin County Dining and Shopping Guide. We are in the process of developing that right now. We are working with the State Journal on the design and layout of the guide, and then Lanham Media is, the plan is to have Lanham Media do the printing. We set aside a little bit of money for a reprint should we need to do that based on any changes, additions of restaurants or hopefully no deletions, but possibly later in the year. So we're targeting having that ready to be distributed throughout the county, and hopefully late February, early March is sort of our target. The balance of the money, the $10,000, we used to fund our portion or part of our portion of the Come Find Bourbon marketing campaign that we are partnered with Covington and Bardstown on. So that has picked back up this month. And again, that is paid digital ads that are served based on people searching the internet for things like bourbon tours, boat tours, the Bourbon Trail, things like that. So that is it's driving people to the Come Find Bourbon website, which is just sort of a shell and a link to each of those 3 cities' websites. We have had our traffic is about 7,000 to 10,000 views a month. And so that is gaining momentum. We think we're doing pretty well on that. We also, there's a Facebook presence and there's some social media posts that are going along with that spend. Additionally, the 3 partners bought a sort of a package advertising deal through the state of Kentucky Tourism Department. And that is going to, we're working on an article that will be posted on the KentuckyTourism.com website, which has about 250,000 users and emails sent to those numbers. It will also include some print ads in a couple of magazines, Ohio Magazine in their April edition, and another one called Long Weekends in their spring edition. Those are print magazines, and then they also have digital versions. So that's what I wanted to tell you. We're moving along with that. I thank you very much for that money. It has helped us. It aligns with what Tommy mentioned a minute ago on the objective for fostering bourbon tourism and continuing that. So that's where we're at. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Don't see any questions.
Could I add one point back to Scotty's point about the wayfinding signage? Scotty, just on another note, there's kind of another project I think I've mentioned before to you all. I'm calling it the phase 2 of the brown signage. About a year or so ago, we replaced a lot of the brown signs and added new ones for sites like Castle and Key, Lakeside Arena, Glens Creek, and others. And the phase 2 project has additional signs for West 6th Farm, Canoe, Kentucky, some of Lakeview Park is one of them, and some of the city parks. So we've again worked with the city on that. They've got the estimate from their sign contractor, and according to Katie Beard a couple of weeks ago, moving forward to getting those produced and hopefully installed sometime this year.
Okay. Any questions? Any other questions, Squire Tracy?
Thanks, Robin. Let's see, I think the other day, the State Journal had wrote an article in regards to tourism in Buffalo Trace.
Yes.
Do you know if Franklin County was able to capitalize on the visitors? I think they said they were 50% down. That's pretty good considering what we're going through. Do you know if we were able to capitalize off those at all?
We always try to get those visitors to come into town and other parts of the country, or county rather, not country. We know that a lot of them are looking at, the distilleries in the area. Fortunately for us, Buffalo Trace is up and running and giving tours, whereas many of the ones, Four Roses, Castle and Key and others are not. So to know if we directly saw people come, I would say the answer is yes. I don't have real data on that. It's very hard to track without, using some sort of geolocating on people's phones or something. But they had 100,000 visitors from July 1 to December 31st. And that's pretty darn good. And I know that some of our outdoor venues, had a pretty good year despite COVID. So I would think that we drove some of those people into the community to spend money.
Right. You touched on the restaurant guides. What is your plan in regards to getting that out into the community and neighboring towns to get people to come to Frankfort and Franklin County?
Right. Well, one of the reasons we wanted to do it and have wanted to for a while was just that, a lot of the distilleries and venues like Canoe, Kentucky and Josephine Sculpture Park, have people come out there and say, where can I go to eat? So we're going to place them out there. We'll place them in the surrounding counties at Prodigy and the distilleries and attractions is really the main focus. Wherever we can place them in the county, and our restaurants locally and attractions as well as surrounding.
Okay, thank you.
Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. Hey, Robin, thanks for the presentation. Quick question on
Sure.
the $10,000 the bourbon campaign. Is that bourbon exclusively, or does that include anything like Sig Lusher or Wessex Brewery, any of the microbrews or wineries or anything, or is it just bourbon only?
We tie in really all of our attractions into that. The campaign is called Come Find Bourbon because, bourbon is a hot word when people are searching for things to do. But when you dive deeper, it gets into some of the itineraries on that site, which take in our other attractions like Sig Lusher and West Six and Josephine and all the others. In addition, that's not the only digital marketing we're doing. We're doing, with the limited money we've had due to the COVID thing, we are spending some on more generalized digital marketing, the same concept. And we're pushing public art, we're pushing outdoor activities, local, eat local, shop local, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? No other questions? We're going to kind of switch the agenda around, and Robin, I'm going to ask Mr. Harrod, who's I see there, we'll ask him and yourself to discuss the audit.
Sure.
For the ending June 30th, 2020, and then we'll come back to minutes after that. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Harrod. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try to give you just a quick little overview as we do each year for our audit that's been completed for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020 for the Franklin County Tourist and Convention Commission. First of all, in addressing the auditor's report, we talk about management's responsibility, that they are responsible for the financial statements. Our responsibility is to render an opinion on those financial statements, and that's what we've done. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above, which I just mentioned, present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Tourist Commission at 6/30/20. Its changes in net assets, cash flows for the year ended in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States of America. So again, your standard clean opinion. We did put two emphasis of matters paragraphs attached to this. Basically, what that boils down to is twofold. One, these are generally accepted GAAP-based financial statements. The employees there at the commission are subject to contributions to the Kentucky retirement system for public employees. Because of all the information and the materiality of those liabilities and assets that are presented each year, we thought it was important. It's not GAAP basis, but we thought it was important to add those in here. So we've done that, and we'll talk about those in just a second. Secondly, and we mentioned this in several different footnotes, we'll talk about just in a second too. We talk about the effect of the pandemic on the Tourism Commission. As Robin was just mentioning, and as you all well know, probably hasn't been any area hit any harder economically than travel and tourism. We also represent the Kentucky Travel Association. They're experiencing the same thing. We have a number of restaurants and hotels and stuff, and so it's just been a very difficult time for them. So we bring that point up in here because it's as tourism or as people stay in hotels and that drops off, well then obviously the tax is going to drop and the revenue for the commission is going to tail off as well. With that being said, I'll also say that given the facts and given the situation, of course, with the June 30th, 2020 year end, they really only suffered about 3 or 4 months of the actual pandemic. But even at that, they held their own with a loss of only $11,000, which I thought was pretty good considering the circumstances. Starting with the financial position, you'll see that cash at the end of June still stayed pretty strong at $314,000. We have $37,000 worth of room tax assessment receivable. A few other small receivables brought our current assets to $356,000. The commission still owns the land that was donated to them down on Wilkerson Boulevard. It was donated at a value of $700,000. It's been sitting there for quite a few years, donated by the late Mr. Ratliff. This is where the public employee pension information comes in. The outfit that calculates the actuarials that calculate these show that there are there's a deferred amount for pensions and deferred amount for post-employment benefits totaling $86,000 that actually, since they are deferred, are assets on the books of the commission. However, on the other side, you've also got the net pension liability at $396,000 and the post-employment benefit liability of $94,000. Again, like I say, these numbers are so substantial, we just felt like it was important to include them in here. The total current liabilities at $35,000 does give a very liquid picture for the next year or so for the commission. That's a good thing. The total liabilities at $601,000 when taken against the $1,143,000 in assets does leave the commission with a relatively strong equity position of $541,000. Over on the income statement, we'll see that the actual support, the revenue, was $445,000. Of that, let's see, 218, 155, 373,000 of it was from the county and city room tax appropriations. So still the major portion of their revenue comes from those two items. Administrative expenses were $241,000, operating expenses were $65,000, and advertising and promotion expenses is what really drives the commission's mission statement, was at just over $150,000. Again, these expenses total $456,000 against the gross revenue of $445,000, giving us a loss of $11,000 and a final net asset equity of $541,000 for the end of the year. Cash actually grew by $129,000 through the difference of accruals and deferrals in the operating activity. At the beginning of the footnotes, it does talk about how the commission came into play and the revised statute that governs its existence. We talk about the basis of accounting. I won't get into all the different ASUs that guide this, just to say that they are compliant with every one of them. The tax status, they are a part of local government, so therefore they're exempt from any kind of tax liability under Internal Revenue Code 115. Again, trying to keep this relatively short and just an overview. I don't think the biggest part of the notes are consumed by the employee retirement plans. Those are all the actuarial numbers, the forecasts, and the projections that are given to us by the actuarial entities. That takes care of all the that covers all the employee retirement as well as the post-employment benefits. So if you have any interest in that, you can read through their reports that or our reports that's included that extrapolates information out of their report. A little bit of leased equipment, compensated absences. The rest of the footnotes are pretty standard. We did add into the subsequent events. We talked about how the ongoing COVID pandemic probably will have an effect on the commission. However, to quantify that, it's just not plausible right now or doable, but we'll see how that plays out in the next fiscal year. The functional expenses and the liquidity, both required disclosures are listed. I will say this, given the circumstances of where we find the tourism in this pandemic, they have enough current resources to meet approximately 69% of their projected operating expenses. And that's really very strong because that's assuming that no revenue come in. You know it's not going to meet that. So again, that with the working capital ratio as well as it looks, they're very liquid. So they have strength in that, and that will buy plenty of time, or hopefully plenty of time to get through this pandemic. And that's pretty much, like I say, I want to give a quick overview of the report. Didn't want to get too deep into the weeds, but be happy to answer any questions. Or Robin, if you got anything else you want to add to it.
I think you covered it. If anyone has questions, we'd be happy to field them.
Squire Booth.
Yes. I noticed that, I don't know very much about financial statements, but I noticed that an ASU that is coming into play was mentioned several. supplemental information.
Uh-huh.
Why is that important to the future of organizations, nonprofit organizations like the tourism?
Well, it's important because the FASB boards say they are, I guess would be a good way to put it for us. They dictate our industry, but there are, as you mentioned, there are a couple in the nonprofit that are very important. Basically, ASU 2020-07 deals with just the presentation of disclosures for contributed non-financial assets. So what that boils down to, and it really won't affect the commission any, at least it hasn't in the past, other than years ago when the land was donated to them. This would be the presentation and the valuation of things such as a land or building or furniture, any kind of non-cash, non-investment type asset that was going to be contributed to the commission or to a nonprofit. And these are some rules that are just going to basically increase the amount of information that has to be disclosed in the footnotes to basically tell where the qualitative and the quantitative amounts came from, how they were determined, and what it's really composed of, as well as the uses and the services that it's going to be used by that nonprofit to fulfill their mission statements. Then there's also that's one of the big ones on the horizon for the nonprofit arena. There's also ASU 2018-08, which already has been adopted by the commission here, and that's really dealing with is it a contribution or is it a sale of something? In other words, there were a lot of nonprofits that were recording monies coming in as contributions, but there was really a quid pro quo going on. There was actually a lease or a discounted lease or a service or something. And this is pretty much going to stop the reporting of that as contributions. If there's something, if the money's coming in, but there's something going out, a service or a product, then that's going to have to be listed as a contractual sale or a service, not a contribution. Okay, very
Okay.
good. Good questions.
All right, Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Harrod, I just want to ask, I probably have several, but I'll ask a few and then give
Sure.
the opportunity for others to ask. I noticed that it appeared the audit was completed back in June of 2020. Just wonder what happened in that 7-month span while we're seeing it now. And
It
that
was
may not be a question for you. It may be a question for someone else.
it was for the fiscal year ended June 30th of 2020. The report was actually issued on November 17th of 2020.
Okay.
What normally takes place is by the time bank statements come in, and a big part on this one, to be quite honest with you, is that report on the post-employment benefits and the actuarial numbers, because that's a massive job for them. And then it turns out to be a massive job for us to translate it all over. But those two things usually take some time to get those items acquired. And so by the time we get that, we're usually looking at September or October. And then it takes us a good 6 to 8 weeks to actually perform the audit, which then has us issuing that in November. So
that's helpful. I did have a question about something on page 5.
Okay.
The deferred outflows and resources. Maybe you could talk to the court just a little bit more about those deferred outflows, because it appears that that's pension and then the other post-employment benefits, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Now, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Please,
Okay.
please.
Yeah. What I was going to say is when you look at those on page 5, you've also got to flip over to page 6, and you've got to look at the liabilities and the deferred inflows over there. All of that is basically what they do is they look at the activity from the commission into the entire state pool. Then they look at the entire state pool and they look at the investments, and they look, and the actuarials will then assign. And I believe Kenny's here with me. Was it 6% rate of return, Kenny, or 5? 6.5. So they each year they reassign what their anticipated return on the investments inside those pension plans are. Then through their actuarial magic, which I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I'm not an actuarial, so how they calculate a lot of that I'm not familiar with. But then what they'll do is they'll come up with what is for each participant, for each participating entity in the state retirement system. They will actually calculate what they project to be the assets and the liabilities in there. Now, the deferred amounts from pension and deferred amounts from OPEB are actually offsets on those net liability, or not offsets, but the gross amounts. And then the offsets would be the net pension liability and the employee benefit liabilities. Again,
Can I ask, I wondered about that because in looking at the expense, pension expense payable, that's about 750% less than the sick leave contract payable. So I'm wondering how
well,
that.
Those are different beasts. The leave contract payable was with the former executive director. That contract is being paid out on her. What you're looking at here on the pension liability, and here's another thing too. This is the part that really I feel for the commission. You know, a lot of the things associated with the different county groups, they've paid in for years. They weren't really deficient. Some other areas have been deficient, but then they're having to share in the shortfall. And so again, what those calculations are, those are the results of those actuarials going through there. And in their estimation, actually, if you netted all this together, you'd be looking at 57, 28, 30. So you're looking at what they're saying this year, and it'll change by next year, that if everything came to a halt right now and they wanted to fund everything, it would take the commission about $360,000 to actually fully fund that thing. Well, they're sitting on 314. So obviously, if that was the case, it would be the end of the commission. So that's not going to happen. And also, these numbers constantly change. I'll be honest with you, in my personal opinion, using a 6.5% expected average rate of return over the next 20 years is probably, that's pretty aggressive. The real liability is probably higher than this because the rate of return on the investments I doubt will hold that kind of return over that long a period of time. But again, they apply those measures and those assumptions, and then they provide us with these liabilities and deferrals, and we post those. So it kind of gives you a better, and that's why we thought it was important that it actually gets included in here, even though it's not GAAP, because if those weren't on here, you'd be looking at liabilities, substantial liabilities that exist that wouldn't be shown on here.
So does that take into account the ones that talk on page 16 there, where it talks about non-current liabilities, making them long-term liabilities?
Yes, because those it's obvious that $395,000 is not going to be required of the commission in the next 12 months. That's why they appear down there. Yeah.
Right. So those circumstances that are going to put those compensated absences, the pension liability, I'm just reading off the document.
Right.
The compensated absences, the net pension liabilities, and the net OPEB liability and the sick leave payout contract. All of those kind of fall in that long-term category.
On the sick leave contract, 22,000 of that will be due in the next 12 months. And then if you'll note there in the non-current, the 11,000 in December of 2022, that wraps up, and that will all be paid out and goes away.
So that's, you said December 22?
December 31st of 2022.
Okay.
I thought it was 21, David.
Let's see, fiscal 2020. Did I do the math wrong? Let's see, June 30th or June 20th. Yes, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It is December of 2021. I'm sorry.
At the end of this year. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
End of this calendar year.
Correct.
Okay. Can you talk to the court, maybe on page 7? Can you talk to the court about the Kentucky matching funds just a little bit? And maybe this is a question for the tourism director. Because I read further in the document, it talks about that up to 80% of eligible expenses for ads comes into play there. So it sounds like we're maximizing that opportunity. Is that correct?
Yeah. Robin, you probably could speak better to that one because
Yes.
I know that gets played with quite often by the state. So.
Yeah, it changes from year to year, but basically that matching funds program is a way to participate in advertising opportunities that the state has identified. And in doing so, we make the spend up front, and then the state reimburses us a percentage. Sometimes it's 50%, sometimes it's higher than that, and that varies the maximum amount we can be eligible to receive as the match also varies, and it varies all based on, well, to some degree, the state budget within the Department of Tourism. And this year, in fiscal 21, our maximum match is about $12,000. In 5 years ago, it was about 60,000. So just to give you an idea of impacts over time.
Absolutely. So staying on that page, I'm looking at, let's see, all the administrative expenses, are those without donor restriction?
Yes.
Okay. And can we flip over to, let's see, I think on page 9, I saw the word society. No, I'm sorry, 11. I don't, is there another entity involved in this at the very bottom of page 11? And that may just be.
That's just a typo. Yeah, I apologize.
I thought that was probably an errant word. I just wasn't sure if that referred to some other entity that maybe funds may have been coming to our tourism
No,
commission.
that's simply a typo. We'll get that corrected.
That's not that big of a deal. I was just hoping it was another avenue for more money to come to the county.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
More money to the county.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for looking, Sherry.
Mhm.
Yeah, I read everything.
Yeah,
Please
that's good.
don't.
And you know, believe it or not, this gets prepared and reviewed twice, and somehow that still slipped through.
Sure. And I'm on page 12 over in item E. Can you elaborate a little bit on, there's a statement in there that says this practice differs from the generally accepted accounting principles, but the impact is really material, just so that we understand, because, you know, it's important to make that notation for some reason, or it wouldn't be in
Absolutely.
here, even if it's immaterial. So
Yeah.
I think just,
Generally accepted accounting principles requires that there be, if you have accounts receivable, that you create an allowance for uncollectible accounts. However, in this particular situation, these room tax assessments, that would basically require the city or the county to default on giving that money over to the commission. It's never happened, and we don't really see where that really has a real possibility. Therefore, we felt like, in discussing it with management, that to provide an allowance for an uncollectible would really be a deceiving number. So, but generally accepted accounting principles doesn't allow an exception in there, and so therefore we're saying, well, we're accepting it out because it would be immaterial if there was any, because basically it'll be zero. Yeah. But that's
okay.
a very good question.
And then I'll have one more, and then I'll stop, and maybe my
Sure.
counterparts probably have lots of questions too. Under section I on that same page, it states that the liability was measured as of June 30th, 2019.
Yes.
So we're looking at real numbers from 2019, calculating those into 2020 and making a report on that, correct? So actually looking at real figures from 19, not 20. I just want to make sure we all understand that, correct?
I say this a little tongue in cheek because it's the actuarial numbers from 2019, and those actuarial numbers, I guess they're as real as they can be. Yes.
Okay, I appreciate.
Yeah.
I appreciate. Thank you. Judge, I'm going to just relinquish the floor to another counterpart for a while. Thank you.
All right. That very kind of you. Anybody else have anything else to say? Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Harrod, thank you. Ms. Antonucci, thank you. We appreciate tourism and thank you for doing the best you can to make it go.
Well, and thank you for
in 2021, where it's going to be better.
There you go. And thank you all for helping us along the way. Appreciate it.
Harrod, once again, thank you for coming in and
Sure,
enlightening
thank you.
on this audit. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Anytime.
Okey doke. The next item on the agenda is authorization for approval of minutes from a regular meeting of January the 8th. Are there any questions about the minutes from our January 8th meeting? Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. I was noticing in regard to the motion for on-site health solutions for the biometric screening, it shows that a vote was taken by the court after a motion and a second, but this document shows no vote was actually taken. We probably want to amend the minutes to reflect the actual vote. or at least on the copy that I got in the hard.
I'll yield to
Yes,
Deputy Judge on that.
yes, that is correct. Thank you.
So how do you want to follow through on that one, Tamara?
We can approve the amended minutes.
An amended minutes?
Mhm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what will the amended minutes say?
It'll just add that last sentence in there.
Okay, all right. Am I okay with that? All right, so thank you. That is that item. Now let's go to the next one with some great news. I am just thrilled to death to bring our county clerk on. County clerk, welcome. We're going to receive the county clerk's quarterly report, and then after that, we're going to receive some great news. So Jeff Hancock, first of all, let us say this. Thank you. You've gone through a lot. Your staff has gone through a lot. You've been in there. You've been in the trenches. You've worked hard. You've kept the doors open as best you can during these crazy times, and you've done the work for the people. Thank you and your staff.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you to the court. As you said, 2020 couldn't come to an end any quicker, and I couldn't have been any happier for it to be in our past. This is a year that has tried us all through elections and through everything we've done, whether it be a budget or whether it just be operating and keeping the doors open. I'm proud to be able to present to you guys. Today, I'm going to give you a check for $800,000 in excess fees. Our actual excess fees are $892,000. Most of you, and at this point, you all have been on the court for this year, our second year at it. We hold back 10% or roughly 10% until our audit is completely finished. As soon as our audit's finished, we get the money to you all, we get the funds to you all so you all can spend them and they're in the right hands. But overall, I think it was an amazing year. Obviously, we came in December and we amended this budget. I let you know that the fees would be up. But part of it is just COVID restrict us and tied our hands from being able to spend or being able to do anything to improve land records, which is our goal for this year. We're planning on improving land records, making them all accessible. I had a meeting today with my staff, and we're putting out a RFP. The RFP will be based on making every record that we have available online. We think this is not only a great for the entire community, but we think it's going to be amazing to be able to be anywhere you want to be, whether it be in Florida or anywhere. If you're a taxpaying citizen of Franklin County, you're going to be able to pull and get your deeds, your land records, your mortgages right there at your fingertips. So we're really excited about that. And I'm open to any questions that you guys got.
Questions? Squire Muller, I see your hand.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Jeff, for coming on presenting tonight. The RFP you just spoke about, do you have any idea, rough budget numbers, what other maybe counties have paid to have that done, to have all your records put online, quote unquote?
Squire Mueller, I appreciate the question. I will tell you that none of the counties are created equally. In Franklin County, we're indexed and time stamped back to 1994. So it means we're indexed and most everything's imaged along with that. We have some plat issues that are not imaged. And you as a contractor can understand that, you know, if you could get your hands on a plat from your house, it would make a lot of sense when you're trying to figure out property boundaries or stuff of that nature. So those are the things we're going to catch up. We're expecting the overall project, and it won't all be done.
I mean, there's got to be a reason. I just can't figure it out, and it's driving me crazy.
Hold on.
I mean, but the
I'm not sure
speaking
who's coming through.
perfect.
Somebody that's on needs
Huh?
to mute.
We're expecting the project overall, by the time we're done, to be around about a $225,000 project. Not all of that will be done this year, but when I'm done with everything, you'll be able to search the very beginning of the records for Franklin County. You'll be able to search all the way back to the beginning and the existence of the land deeds and the land trust all the way through to today's time. So that's our goal. but we won't get all that done. I'm assuming, and we've got budgeted in the county clerk's budget this year, I'm assuming this year we'll spend around $125,000 to $130,000 getting up to date, getting everything from 1984 forward, being plats and everything available and usable. It's not only making it available, but we've got to get it in a format where it's usable, where you can search it from your home computers.
And I appreciate that. I was just asking because obviously you're giving us a check for 800,000. So I was curious. My next question is going to be to Susan. Where does that money go? And then, should we put some aside for that project? So that's kind of where I was heading with that. Yeah.
Susan, you want to answer Squire Muller's question?
It sounds like the clerk already has a vision and a strategy for the future for improvements that would utilize a portion of those funds. So that would be, as far as where the money goes, the check will be deposited tomorrow morning to the bank, and it won't be spent until there is a valid appropriation from fiscal court. So it's preserved until that time, and so it's secure, and it's future funds for some strategic use.
Okay, that's wonderful news. So yeah, that's great news. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Okay. Any other questions? Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Jeff. Just following up from a previous meeting, we touched on the clerk's office and the sheriff's office in regards to cleaning. How's that going?
It's going pretty well, Squire Tracy. Right now, we've got a third-party contractor that comes in. They're coming in twice a month. They're doing a complete spray down of everything in the entire office. We're talking about computers, handles, ice machines, anything that can be touched is getting sprayed down and it's being sanitized to hospital grade sanitation. So I feel pretty good about that. I don't think this virus is going anywhere until we get everybody vaccinated, until we just get past it. I know we're all looking for that future, but I think this is the best plan of attack is to continue to clean I would think we're going to be doing this all the way through the summer.
Right. Okay. That's great. Great news. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing nobody. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, and make sure that your staff knows that we all appreciate their hard work and what they do. Thanks again for the 800,000. That's great. All right. The next item on the agenda is authorization to approve an order for a continuation bond for Jailer Bana because he was newly elected. That bond is just a continuation bond for him. Probably not any discussions on that. The next item is the first reading of an ordinance adopting the Code of Ordinances for the County of Franklin, revising, amending, restating, codifying, compiling certain existing general ordinances of the county dealing with subjects embraced in the code. Mr. Sparks and Northcutt, are both of you all on? Would you like to discuss the codification process and what's been done?
Mr. Sparks, go ahead.
Oh, yes, Judge, thank you. Y'all, this is just the first step of the first of the final steps to get the codified version out there. It restates the way the county has maintained and now displays its ordinances under a codified version, that is with chapter, book, page, etc. And it'll require you to embrace and to identify that format as the official format from now on. So we'll have to do 2 readings. You all have got a copy of the draft codification links, etc. You may or may not have checked it out. I'm sure it was some good reading if you did, but this is the mechanism formally to put it in the codified chapter, verse with headings, etc. And we've taken all of the ordinances that weren't obsolete and that had not been previously repealed or modified, and brought them up to speed, brought them up to date with, again, 8 or 10 chapters and an enhanced ability to search for it. Did y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Good
So this
explanation.
is first reading, and it doesn't do a whole lot, but this is the next to last mile marker to when we can formally publish that codified version.
Okay. Questions? Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. County Attorney, I just wanted to ask you a question because it seems like our focus, I think probably for this ordinance, is the indexing and bringing them up to I think where they are more searchable and more readily available to the electronic world that we live in today, right? That's kind of the point. Or when I was looking through them, I was figuring that was the point, correct?
That's the whole point. Yes, ma'am. The ordinance
Oh.
also authorizes a final publication to be housed in the office of the county clerk. That is one official copy. And then otherwise it just changes the form. It's indexing. Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
There are some cleanups in terms of we had like some ordinances, y'all may remember the problem with occupational tax, where under the official version, there's actually 2 ordinances that you got to look through. One was modified one piece, the other modified the other piece. And we tried to combine all of those and clean up those loose ends.
Okay. Well, the only reason I ask about that is when I read the initial ordinance, some of the wording where it talks about that the present general ordinances are incomplete. Is that saying to us that our ordinances in some way are, because when I think of incomplete, I either think they're deficient, they're insufficient, they're maybe imperfect in some way. I'm just trying to make sure that we're not going on record saying our ordinances are kind of out of kilter. It's just the indexing and the presentation, right?
Well, let me state for the record so everybody hears it. Our ordinances are woefully out of order because they've been kept in serial format from the beginning. So yes, it says exactly that. That's the whole point of codification, is to clean up those omissions. I'm sure there's some people who would want a law to cover everything. And I know the place I would direct those people to go. This just re-indexes their existing ones to move them forward. Nothing more, nothing less. And it publicizes it in another place. It is not a substantive change in any fashion.
I just want to be sure that's the case and that we're not saying that our ordinances are shoddy in any way. Thank you.
Well, I think I answered that one in the affirmative. That's the whole point. I've been wanting this thing cleaned up forever. It's 2021. There's no reason to keep records in the same format as in the 17th and 18th century. And it's high time, and I commend you all. I hope they remember, if you remember nothing else about this court, that this is the court that codified the ordinances.
Squire Booth.
I wanted to make sure that I understand what we're voting on. And it seems to be that we are approving or unapproving the structure of these codifications. And I don't know if I'm qualified to vote on that, the structure of how these records are kept. Am I wrong about that? Are we voting on it?
You're not voting on it, man, but this is the first reading approving that formatting system and the codified system that was distributed out in draft last week, 2 weeks ago, et cetera. But yes, ma'am, it changes the formatting on how it's maintained and indexed and identified.
Okay, so we are voting on that, how it is maintained and how it is structured.
Yes, ma'am.
And does that mean that, well, it's just that way from now on? So
Hope so. Yes, ma'am.
is that a good idea?
Yes, ma'am. It's a brilliant idea. Brilliant. Yeah, great job, y'all. Great job. Yes, ma'am. It is a very good idea. I mean, just imagine, and I guess this is interesting to have this discussion now. Just imagine if every time you had to look a law up, instead of having a Kentucky revised statute, i.e. the revised part of it, you had to go and pull without any other location up at the Capitol in Frankfurt, all of the House bills and Senate bills. I mean, and that it's a nightmare. And that's what the counties had from day one since 18 or 19, whenever, 17, whenever. And this codifies it in the format, just like all the other communities around us, including the city of Frankfurt, into an appropriate format, related and compiled in subject matter, things that are logically attached. There's buildings, housing codes, the different chapters, and that's the whole point. So yes, ma'am, I think this is incredibly important, and I'm glad to have been a part of just saying that.
Do the other counties, are they on a sort of a united approach to these codifications?
Yes, ma'am. We're one of the we're catching up. Yes, ma'am.
No, I mean, we have the same titles for the
Oh, ma'am, I can't speak to that, but they're logically related by subject. I can't speak to how they're organized in terms of their chapter and title. That's peculiar to them. These are all organized, and you'll see in the ordinance the chapters, titles, and subject matters.
Yes, I see that. Okay.
Thank you.
Squire Moore?
Yes, Counselor, since you're not on screen, or we're gonna have to wait for your happy dance after we vote next meeting.
There's a couple more things gonna have to happen in the world to give me a happy dance: vaccines, this, and COVID getting wrong, or some of them. But I'll try to keep my excitement to a minimum. But this is really important. I mean, it's a really, really good thing. It might be a small thing, but it really pushes. It's a really big thing to be able to get through this and be able to research and know where your laws are. If we're truly a country that they say that it's a country of laws, then how the hell are you going to be a country of laws that can't find what they are? And this solves that problem. So I'll dance. I'll go off video, Squire, and I'll dance a little bit and just see.
I want to thank Ann Northcutt for all of her hard work on this project. This is something that I've wanted since day one of being appointed to a fiscal court clerk, and I thought it was a very important thing for us to do. And I asked for this, and finally was able to get the judge on board. And Ann put a lot of time and energy in pulling this together, and I really appreciate all her help.
You know, normally in all my years on the fiscal court, and some of y'all have had quite extensive time too. We as magistrates don't really look up the ordinances. It's the clerk that looks the ordinances up and gets them to us so you can read them. Now, what this is doing is it is helping the clerk get them to you in a very organized and efficient way. And that's why Tamara's thanking you, because she's got to look through 6, 7, 8 different things before she can find an ordinance. This way she goes straight to it and it's right there. So this has been, and so Councilor Sparks does the same thing. We ask him about an ordinance and he checks it out, and it should take him 2 minutes to get it, and it can take him an hour to get it or more. So this is.
Oh, no, Judge, they still take a lot of time. Don't be putting me in 2 minutes getting that thing done. I can't exactly go in the other room and look it up in 5 minutes, but it does facilitate searching things up. Yes, sir.
And well, that's how Tamara sold to me. So she.
I begged. I was so
anyway,
for so long.
All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Seeing none, we'll move to the next item. And boy, this is exciting for our businesses in our community. We've had a little planning committee that worked together. We came up with a plan, and Ann and Susan are going to help us implement the Franklin County COVID-19 Small Business Grant Application. Ann, you want to talk about it at first?
Sure, and I just want to say thank you to the deputy judge for that nice comment, but also to say that a lot of staff and the county attorney and Andrew Tippett were all instrumental in getting the codification project done. So I just want to say thank you to them as well. Okay, on this, I listened to what the committee talked about, and we tried to come up with a grant application for our small businesses in the unincorporated part of Franklin County. And so what I foresee is if this is something we want to move ahead with, I'd like to do that right away and include a cover letter with this application that would state the dates that it was due and the address to return the information, those kinds of things. So I didn't include that on the application because I wanted to make sure that this conversation tonight went forward and we were ready to go with this. So I'm glad to accept any questions that have to do with the application, or as I'm sure Susan would be as well.
Squire Blackman.
I can't hear him.
Can't hear you, Squire.
Thank you, Judge. And supposing this does go forward, when do you think you would set a cutoff date?
I believe that if this goes forward, we could have this available to the small businesses on February 1st and ask them to have their applications turned in with the supportive documentation by February 15th. So by the 19th, by the next court meeting, we could give the court a list of eligible businesses and ask for the authorization to go ahead and award those grants.
Thank you.
Squire Tracy.
Thank you, Judge. I just want to say thank you to all involved for making this happen. This is huge. It's going to help. It's definitely going to help some of our small businesses throughout that are located in the county. So thank you to everyone involved.
Okay, Squire Muller.
Yes, I'd like to echo Squire Tracy's comment and also let everybody know this is for the businesses that are down a little bit. It's not going to go to everyone just because you're in business. And one of the other things we talked about in committee was that it's going to be very important to have all your paperwork done correctly. So that's part of this process. So I hope the companies, the businesses that need it, take it serious and turn everything in that's required so we can hand a bunch of money out. So thank you.
Squire Blackburn.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. I also want to know, how are we going to make sure that we make this as public as possible and we get it in front of the eyes of the people that need to see it?
We're getting ready to announce that Andrew will have it posted on our Facebook, our webpage, and that is how it's gotten out before, and that all the information that is needed will be there. Hopefully, they'll have a couple of weeks to get it into us, and we can get checks going out. If we still have money left over, I foresee it would be my recommendation to you that we continue the process if we do have monies left over, and maybe we can get them in after the February 19th date too. So, but it would be great if we use all the monies by the 19th, and if there are more businesses out there lined up, then I'll ask you for some more money if we need to. Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. Squire Blackburn, I think that's a great question. And I would like to ask all my fellow magistrates, I think it's important for all of us to think about all the businesses that are in our districts. And I personally have been thinking about that exact question. And I've been kind of making a list, and I'm going to go door to door and try to help anybody we can. So yeah, that's, I hope everybody can do the same.
Good deal. Thank you, Squire Muller, for that suggestion. I'm going to briefly go through, in order to be considered eligible, the business must have a physical business location in the unincorporated area of Franklin County, Kentucky. Home-based businesses are not eligible. Employ no more than 50 persons. Have been operating and licensed as a business prior to October 1st, 2019. Plan to continue operation for at least 12 months after the grant funds are assigned. Be in good standing in all state, local licenses, fees, and taxes not have been previously reimbursed for the same expenses by any other federal, state, or local grant or forgivable loan, or assessed any additional fees to customers to cover the effects of the pandemic on the businesses. And last but not least, accept responsibility for tax reporting on all grant funds awarded. On July the 6th, 2020, the IRS confirmed that the receipt of a government grant by businesses generally is not excluded from the business's gross income under the code and therefore is taxable. So we got all of that out. That will all be on our forms. That will be advertised. As a matter of fact, I'm having Andrew work on that tomorrow. And Ann, I ask you and work with Andrew and making sure that everything is set and ready to go on Monday.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions on that? Pretty exciting news. Thank you guys for helping get this going. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution in support of submission of an application for grant funds with the United States Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Emergency Management Agency in assistance to firefighters with a firefighters grant. Chief Brewer, are you on? You want to talk about that?
I am on, Judge. The fire department is requesting to apply for this grant. Our SCBAs are one of the most important pieces of equipment we have right there, along with our structural firefighting gear. And we're hoping to possibly utilize this grant to acquire a piece of equipment that, as you can see by the price quote, is quite expensive.
Questions? Squire Booth.
This is an application which has been submitted for several times, and we're just waiting for our turn to get it. Is that sort of the thinking behind this?
Yes, we have applied in the past. We just hope that each year that we have a little more success. There's no way to know for sure with this grant. They only have a set amount of money, from my understanding. But due to the extensive cost of the SCBA, we remain hopeful that we can utilize this grant towards this purpose.
I hope so too.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. This is either for the chief or the assistant fire chief, whoever wants to chime in, and or our grant writer. When should we anticipate hearing back about this grant? Part A, and then part B is, if we do not get these funds, are we going to try to purchase these out of county funds in whole, all 49, or kind of roll out a graduated schedule for the purchase of these units? Thank you.
As to hearing about the grant, it will probably be toward the end of this calendar year before we would find out whether or not we had been awarded any federal funds. And some of the federal programs have actually started, at times they will award a lesser amount than is requested, especially if you're asking for a number of units of the same equipment. So, it would even be a plus for us if we were awarded any federal funds toward any amount of the equipment. And as far as the previous comment, we've actually applied from this grant program as well as from Homeland Security. So we've tried several different avenues, but because those are such highly competitive grant programs, we just have to keep going until, hopefully that we are one of the lucky ones. As to replacing the equipment without the award of any grant funds, that would be something the chief would answer.
Yes, Squire. On as far as replacing the equipment with funds, that's not something we would anticipate to hit in all one budget year. That's something we would probably doing over a few budget cycles to try to spread those out, and also spread the impact of the equipment out and the lifespan of the equipment.
Squire Blackburn?
Thank you, Judge. Yes, Assistant Chief, that was going to be my question. Are these 49 units, are they going to be your full, I guess, makeup of all of your SCB units, or are they going to be, is this just part of them?
Yes, Squire. Currently, we have 49 SCBA that are all on our apparatus. So 49 would be the total number we would need to equip all of our units.
I was just thinking that we get them all at once. They're gonna kind of age out all at the same time. Where we're gonna have to, do this again in the future. But like I say, if they're all going bad at the same time, you got to buy them all. So I understand the ask.
Our hopes with the grant is to be able to, if we can replace them all through a grant, that would be ideal. If we were to have to purchase them through a budget process, we would definitely spread these over a few different years to reduce the financial impact.
Awesome. Thank you.
Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Just curious, what is the existing lifespan of the equipment you have now? And I guess what is the lifespan of the new equipment that's coming, hopefully, if we get this grant?
On SCBA, NFPA doesn't regulate a specific set lifespan as far as number of years. Each year that they're required to be function tested, which our department performs. It's just as the unit gets older, they start to require more maintenance, more replacement of hoses to dry rot. So those costs begin to incur a little more expense each year.
Okay, but it's not regulated, saying they're only good for 10 years and then you have to replace them or anything like that, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Chief Brewer. And then Chief Brewer or Chief Hutcherson, the next item is authorization to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Georgetown Scott County Fire Department to delineate the authority, roles, and procedures for agency personnel to use intra-jurisdictional interoperability radio channels. That's a lot of words in there. Thank you, Chief.
Good evening, Court. Yes, that's quite a mouthful, Judge. Basically, it allows our dispatch and Georgetown, Scott County's dispatch to be able to broadcast their radio channel to us and our radio channel to them.
That's a lot easier way to say it, Chief. Thank you. Question, Squire Sebastian.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. Chief Hutchinson, good to see you tonight. Good to get to talk to you. It talks a little bit about in this document that we have mutual aid agreement between Scott and Franklin County. Can you talk to us a little bit about the geographical area that's going to cover? I know this is for radio transmissions, et cetera, but that is touched on in here. So it would be helpful just to kind of understand that a little bit, especially for my counterparts who live on that end of the county. Thank you very much in advance.
Yes, ma'am. Basically, the area of Georgetown Road, Schweitzer Road, Snavely Road, Cedar Road, those areas there, we interact with Georgetown and Scott County, mainly Scott County, on MVAs, fires, so on and so forth.
Is that, Chief, does that come from dispatch, from Scott County Dispatch or Franklin County Dispatch, or both?
That's one of those tricky areas like 1472 out there. Mm-hmm. Depending on who calls it and where they call from is where it goes into. Okay. So yes, sometimes it comes to us and it's actually Scott County, and sometimes it comes to Scott County or Stamping Ground, and it's actually Franklin County.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Chief, right now it says you do have an agreement with them. How are you all communicating now? Is this memorandum of understanding, is it a continuation, or is something new that's going to make it better?
We actually have what we call a mutual aid agreement that we will go if we're called. But as far as radio communication, they are we don't have that ability to communicate with them directly. Our dispatch has to communicate with their dispatch.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we have the same problem with Anderson County and Franklin County on my side of the county.
Yes, ma'am. We had a mutual aid call out to Earth Haven the other day in Anderson County, and that was definitely a problem.
Squire Tracy?
Thank you, Judge. Chief, just something that I've talked to you about before. If something like this if you all were to get the call and get called out, would any parts of Franklin County be uncovered?
It always, we don't have any spare units, Squire Tracy. It always pulls resources from one place or another. Our standard operating procedure tells us that we would send one unit and accompany, and at times we've been requested to send more, but that's a seldom request.
And again, you and I have had that conversation before, so I just wanted to touch on it.
And
thank you.
Vice versa, we receive the help from other counties when we need them, when we call it.
Squire Moore?
Chief, were you here when we assisted Anderson County with that glass fire?
I was here, but I was not on that fire. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think Franklin County is the ones that got that under control. So it's good to have agreements with your neighbors.
That's I agree 100%. Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions? Squire Tracy?
Thank you, Judge. Chief, in no way am I saying it's not a good idea. I'm just worried about leaving parts of Frankfurt or Franklin County, leaving them out to where something could happen and them be uncovered. That's all. Again, I agree with being able to help your neighbors, but you never know what could happen in your own backyard.
I agree.
If I can clarify this, this doesn't have anything to do with the mutual aid agreement. This is the mechanism under which the respective departments can, for lack of a better word, share their toys and let their walkie-talkies talk to each other, as opposed to having to go through dispatch to share the information. That the mutual aid agreement's already set. This is just another tool that allows you that would communicate.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Chief.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is authorization for approval of a change order. Number 1, relating to the guaranteed energy savings performance contract for various county buildings. Mr. Hewitt.
Yes, sir, Judge. How are you this evening? Good evening, court.
Good, thank you, sir.
So this change order is based upon the discussion by the court previously relating to the standby generator at the jail, 400 Coffee Tree. Originally, it was scoped out as a diesel fueled generator. Based on the prior discussions, there was a consideration for pricing on a natural gas power supply or fuel supply for this generator. ESG obtained pricing on this and came back with a cost proposal of $68,702. This was presented to the Energy Committee. There was consideration for this to come from the owner's contingency within the contract, which was there's adequate funds for this. So you'll see within the agenda abstract that there is no change in the contract price. There is no change in the contract time. I have ESG on the line. You've been provided specifications of the natural gas generator within your packet, and I'm happy to discuss and answer any questions.
Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Robert. Hey, question. You just said there's funds that can cover this, but there's no change in the contract amount. Am I not hearing that right?
You heard it correctly. The owner's contingency, which was $80,000, is covered in the contract amount with ESG. So since this is only $68,000, there are residual funds within the contract. So there is no increase in the contract amount.
But it's still an additional $69,000, correct?
That is correct, but those funds were already allocated for the project.
Right, right. But they don't necessarily have to be used for a generator. I mean, we're just getting the project started, right? I mean, there's funds set aside kind of in case we need them as the project goes on, correct? I'm just wanting to make sure I understand this, and maybe somebody from the committee can explain it. I might not be right.
You're correct. Owner's contingency is available for any changes or increases in costs resulting from changes to the project. So either you can utilize owner contingency funds for the change, or you can use general fund dollars for the change. If you do use general fund dollars, then you'll need to do a budget transfer. If you use owner contingency, that's already allocated in the total project amount. So there is no increase at this time, resulting in no need for a budget transfer.
Okay. I'd like to hear from somebody else. Thank you, Robert. No, that made sense, but thank you.
Squire Booth?
Yes, I remember, I thought about it a lot this afternoon. I remember the meeting that we had to approve this contract. And I think that we tried to put in any discussion that the court had into the contract, and there was discussion about the energy source for this generator. And I do not understand why ESG did not put that into their contract, since they seem to be a very business-oriented and efficient organization. So it worries me a little bit, especially since it's the beginning of the contract. Is there something else? That's
Squire
all.
Moore?
Yeah, Squire Booth, the discussion on the generator started after the contract was already in motion, because I'm the one that brought that up and changing to a cleaner, more efficient and easier to maintain natural gas generator. It wasn't discussed before the contract.
It was discussed among the committee and all. I mean, we spent hours on it, and we decided we would let it go with diesel, and it's a little less expensive, but and that part was in the contract, Squire Booth. That part was, and that's how we thought we would do it. And then after Squire Moore's comments, and after thinking about it, we thought, let's bring it to the court and let's see where it goes, because there's a lot of pluses and minuses, and mostly pluses on the natural gas side, as opposed to filling up diesel tanks and hoping that they don't run out during this time, this emergency use of this. Remember, this generator alone will operate the entire jail. So if it goes out and the source that supplies it goes out, we're in trouble.
Well, I don't have
is
any
a continuous
argument with the change. I can see why it is advantageous for it. I am concerned about the procedure and for the change. That is what I'm worried about.
Well, it actually is a positive thing, because the discussion has led to bringing this to the court to vote on. So the discussion by the magistrates, everyone has had an open discussion about it. So it's very positive that don't look at it in the negative, look at it in the positive, as it's been brought back up again to talk about. And so that's why we're discussing it, and we'll make a decision tonight you'll have an opportunity to vote on it. If you vote no, then it will go back to the diesel. If you vote yes, then it'll go to natural gas.
Okay.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes, I am on that committee, and I believe it first came up in one of the well, in our meeting on the 30th of October. I remember Squire Moore bringing it up, and I rewatched it tonight. He had some very good points with the microbes that grow in the new ethanol enriched diesel, and then the change in temperatures and water vapor condensating. But also, we have a service agreement. We'll have a service agreement with this equipment, and I believe that Ryan Baker with ESG had mentioned the fuel polishing, which removes these things and cleans the fuel. Doing it once a year with a service contract with CAT is $500, and that they basically guarantee that the fuel won't be an issue because it's gunked up or the tank's scaled or rusted or anything like that. But with this fuel polishing in that maintenance agreement, we'll have a maintenance agreement whether it's a natural gas or diesel fuel. It'll just be a $500 cost extra to do the fuel polishing. And with that basis, I think it would take about, let's see here, take 137 years for us to pay that $68,700, paying $500 a month on the diesel polishing. So I think the contingency, as we put it in place, was something to catch things that we really needed, things that we had to have, maybe things that we didn't foresee. And, you know, an $80,000 contingency, we were being very modest when we set that up. But at the same time, I don't think we set that number when knowing we were going to change it immediately and go with a diesel. I know the discussion was basically between Squire Moore and Ryan Baker and Mr. Hewitt. I do understand the benefits, but at the same time, I believe the longest we've ever been without power is about 2 days. And this generator will cover everything except that one outbuilding, which will have its own generator. And under emergency powers, you know, if there's an emergency and the power's out and everything's an emergency, they're not going to be washing clothes and doing all those things that aren't absolutely necessary under emergencies, although they could with either generator. So I don't think it's a required need. I do think it probably is a little better, but at the same time, I don't think the improvement outweighs the cost. Like I said, if we did the $500 a year fuel polishing, it would take 137 years to recoup that $68,702. So I know we didn't discuss it as a court where everybody agreed or didn't agree or gave a head nod or however we did. We just went with we didn't want Tamber to have to dig in and rechange the whole contract with their management to make this happen with the new generator. So I was just trying to get some context to where we were, because I am on the committee and I feel responsible for where we're going from it. So I just wanted to make that clear with everybody.
Judge Wells, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Operational costs for a diesel generator include more than just polishing. There are fuel delivery fees. There's a fluctuation of diesel fuel. There's inspections that have to occur, reporting. The other two standby generators recently installed from capital improvement projects for the sheriff and coroner's office and fire admin at Station 10 have all been natural gas. My concern is with the population of at least 300 inmates and staff, that if there were a natural disaster, which could happen. I mean, we have been in a global pandemic for 8 to 10 months here. That if there was a reason in which diesel fuel was either not available or could not be transported, the county's still responsible for 300 inmates. And I believe, just in my opinion, as I supported in the last two capital projects, that natural gas is a more reliable fuel source than diesel.
I totally agree with you, Robert, and I understand, but I feel like You know, I understand your position where you're coming from. You're pulling for this. I wish you'd have pulled this hard before the contract was written and we voted on it. And I know if we put in a gas line, the gas company, I think, did it for free on the last ones, but we will have to do an asphalt cut. Those costs aren't in part of this. So there are some added costs with the natural gas as well on the initial installation. I don't know if their asphalt cut was in on this price, the $68,702, but I didn't see it. So I get it. I get it both ways. And my point of view is I don't think the cost outweighs the benefit.
Squire Moore, you're next.
I know where Squire Blackburn's coming from, but there are a lot more advantages to the natural gas. I'm a diesel guy, and to have me push for natural gas is really different. But diesels have to have particulate air filters and diesel exhaust systems, and when those go down, they're for a pickup, they're in the thousands of dollars. So this big engine, there's no telling what it would be. And I just think in the long run, natural gas engines last longer, and they're a whole lot more efficient, and natural gas runs cheaper. I just think in the long run we'll save money. Now it's going to be a lot more than $500 a year. So.
Well, I do remember you asking for more information at that last meeting. I don't feel like that we've been given. And I'm just telling you where I'm at. I totally agree with you. You know more about diesel fuel than I do. I do drive a diesel pickup, and even the difference in winter diesel and summer diesel is tremendous. I know it's a 460 horsepower motor. I ran the specs on it last week. You know, I could take that motor to a motor specialist and for $14,000 have the, spark plugs put in it, rework the head, all the different components in it. You know, you said yourself, $68,700 difference. You couldn't understand why it was so different from a diesel to a natural gas. I don't either. But there it is.
That's definitely the kicker. I don't either, because natural gas was always cheaper than diesel, and it doesn't make sense to me. But I still am for it.
Yeah, I'm not against having that. I'm just concerned we're spending our contingency right off the bat, and we haven't run into a problem. We haven't been in it long enough to run into a problem. And like I say, I don't wish problems upon us, but I have remodeled a lot of things in my lifetime, and problems are things you run into, especially a building is used as hard as the jail. And I just want to keep I want to hedge that bet on that contingency.
Yeah, I understand.
Yes, I agree.
Squire Mahler.
Thank you, Judge. Yeah, I've did a little bit of research on this, and there's pros and cons for both. I do have one question for maybe ESG or Robert. So, how on the diesel tank, what was proposed originally, how many gallons was figured, 250 or 500 gallon or 1,000 tank? What's figured in that proposal? And knowing what it would be running at the jail, how long would it run on one tank of fuel? Because I know they test it once a month. It starts up automatically for 30 minutes to make sure everything's good. But if it was completely full, running at idle for the jail, how long would it go for?
Judge Barton, would you like for your team to address the question?
Sure. Ryan, are you on here? I recall
ma'am.
that it's a 535 gallon.
I don't have the specifics on the gallon size, but looking at the fuel tank, it's got an integral tank. It's a 24-hour tank, so it'll run. It's large enough to run for 24 hours. Like I said, I don't have the specifics on gallons, but that's the run time.
Okay, that helps. Thank you, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Ryan, is that consumption at full load or at idle?
I don't have those specifics. I would assume it's running full.
Squire Moore?
I would just like to add that in 94, the schools couldn't get in to maintain their anythings until a private contractor came and cleaned paths for them, and they were down for over a week before they can even get into the schools. So if we couldn't get fuel up there to the jail in 3 or 4 days of a bad situation, it would be bad, be worse.
Squire Booth?
I think we're discussing something that is not the point. The point to me is that we did not include this. We were told, or I got the impression, I'll put it that way, there were no change orders coming because we had the contingency fund. And we have spent, if we approve this change order, which we weren't expecting, we have $12,000 left in the contingency, less than 12,000 in the contingency fund. So I just think it's bad practice, and I protest that, and maybe it will be a lesson to future contracts that we have.
Squire Blackburn?
You know, I see the benefit of it totally. So with that said, right now, if we'd approved it right now, there would be no change in the timeline. If we were to wait, would there be a deadline that we could set, or that ESG could set for us to say, hey, we need to know this at this date and time, or it will change the timeline? Because if we get further along in this project and we do have a contingency that or, you know, something that comes up that eats into our contingency fund, we could go on with the project with no changes. But if we felt like we could do this and afford it within the confines of the contracted price, I'm totally good with it.
I'll take that one. Yeah, so you know, the longer we push it out, there's you know, lead time for the equipment. It's 13 to 14 weeks. We have already been pursuing, you know, heading this direction for the natural gas, which requires, you know, engineering and also the gas service upsize, which we've already contacted Columbia Gas to get a check to them for that resize, and to get in their queue to make that happen. So as far as that, we do have some time invested in it currently. Obviously, anything we push out, you know, could potentially extend time. I don't have a specific deadline in my head at this point, but we can research it and let you know.
So you've already invested time and resources on this change before it's been approved. Okay.
Squire Tracy?
Thank you, Judge. Quick question. Back when this was, when the contract was presented to us, either with diesel and or natural gas, had you all not already had some engineering work done? If not, how did you come up with that price originally for the natural gas? Because I know, I don't want to speak for the judge or Squire Blackburn, but we looked at numbers for what seemed like a year trying to get down. And ultimately, I think that's where the diesel came in. So my question is, it seems like you're saying, well, we're going to have to do this and do that. But for me, it looks like that would have already been done to get an accurate figure when you originally presented or proposed the contract to us, to give us that, you know, that choice between diesel and natural gas. So it looks like to me that all that should have already been done and you should have already had that. So I guess my main question is, going back, what was the price on natural gas compared to the diesel back when the committee was actually choosing between the two?
I don't have the specific numbers between those, but just to kind of explain, as far as the engineering side, there isn't any required on that initial upfront investigation. Obviously, we have a understanding of we have to set a generator. We have a certain amount of site work we have to do depending on the type of generator used. The engineering side is for permitting purposes. So that's the main reason for the engineering, in order to get those proper permitting procedures taken care of. So it's nothing
Okay.
that was done ahead of time.
Okay, so with that being said, when we were given the choice between the two, obviously prices were different. Did you all not figure in the engineering and the permits and all the extra in order to get that to us, or where we could make an informed decision? So really, if we went back and looked at the difference, is the difference between diesel and natural gas 8-10 months ago, is it going to be the difference of this $68,000?
Right. I think you're asking if the price difference between a natural gas unit versus a diesel unit, if that price is 68, whatever that is. No, so there's some additional site work that's required for that natural gas to run the gas line across the road. Yeah, as far as design engineering, that's required for the either a diesel or natural gas. But then the gas line service fee is another portion that you wouldn't be required if you had a diesel, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
It does. But again, I think I'm asking for an answer. What was the total price 10, 12 months ago for natural gas? What would it have costed us back then if we would have went with it? What was we seeing on paper, that compared to the diesel, for the reason for Squire Blackburn and the judge and I to say, well, you know what, money wise, it looks like the diesel route may be to go. And then when we come to the meeting, obviously, it's being tossed around. So I'm just trying to figure out if there is any difference between when we were originally presented the proposal compared to today, because truly there shouldn't be.
Right. I honestly don't know what was presented on the natural gas. I know we had some pretty good numbers on the diesel. The only thing I remember was just a conversation, kind of a shot from the hip as far as the price difference for the different units. I
Right.
can't speak to anything beyond that.
Right.
Clark, Tracy,
I agree with everybody. I really do. I see both sides of it. One of the things that scares me in regards to the contingency fund is the fact that Jay Urbana and his staff has been very, very open and transparent to the point of the water lines, sewer lines inside the jail, inside the floor, scare them to death. And we've always been told leading up to this, well, we don't know where we're at until we get in there and get in there. So that once you start breaking up concrete and getting into that, and all of a sudden you see that there's lines broke, this, that, $12,000 is going to be a drop in the bucket to get that stuff replaced. And then we're pulling money from other places. So that's what scares me about it.
Squire Muller, did you have a question? No? Okay. Any other questions on this? We're gonna end up voting on this tonight, and so let me end with a couple of comments. Squire Blackburn and Squire Tracy, you all can attest that this has been a great committee. It's been an enlightening committee, and we're having this discussion because we had this discussion as the three of us had this same discussion several months ago about this and which way to go. And we were very concerned about the total amount of the cost of this project and where it could be. So we cut probably, when it's all said and done, over $2 million from this project. And the diesel natural gas generator was part of that cut. We went to, because we wanted to save money. Robert Hewitt, bless his heart, thank God for him, he said that there are definitely going to be items that we're going to have to pay for. So he put in Actually, he started out, I believe, Robert, at $100,000 in contingency. And then we tried to cut it. We cut it back a little bit because we were trying to save money. We are at a point, and all of you are saying the right things. Nobody is wrong here. Except this. This is where I caution you. I want you to think not today, because we can afford $68,000. We got contingency for it. We've got money there set aside for it. Now, we may not have money for the next big project, but we can go into amend the budget and bring that money in. But what's going to happen is some of you are going to be around here in 4 years or 5 years or whatever time. You're going to look at this again. I know good and well, and Scotty Tracy, you know good and well, Lambert Moore, you know good and well, you will. This will come back because you're going to say, I think we really need to look at natural gas. We've done it, everything that we've looked at. We've gone for every one of our generators in Franklin County now have gone to natural gas because we realize it is the most sustainable. It's the cheapest source of fuel that we can have. And it is there permanently. So don't be, I know where you're coming from and I appreciate you, but don't be so short-sighted that because you don't want to spend the $68,000 now, that it might just have to come sooner than you think. Be careful on shortchanging us and what is really going to be needed. That one day, if it goes out, I promise you, we're all going to say, well, how did this happen? How come we don't have the fuel and we got to do something at the jail? One day, 24 hours is all it's got in it, in the tank. Be careful. Squire Moore.
And it's cleaner burning too, Judge. And I'm not sure that once a year clean on that fuel tank will be enough. So we'll see about that too.
Yeah.
I've got one vehicle that sits a lot and once a year is not enough.
Okay.
Just that.
Carwell, may I make a couple quick comments?
Thank you, Judge. By all means, you can.
Okay, I just want to address Squire Booth's concern. We originally proposed a gas generator. The cost we realized was between $60,000 and $75,000 more than the diesel. Extensive discussions in the committee. We're not bringing this change order to you. We don't have change orders coming from ESG. I want just to make that very clear. This discussion was had at the 9th hour, the 11th hour, whatever you want to call it. I don't remember how many hours it was. It's a long time. At the end of the meeting, and thank goodness for Lambert Moore, Scar Moore, because he is thinking logically from the perspective of being in the field and knowing how this works. We were trying our best to minimize cost, keep this within a budget. So we tried to get the priority list together and eliminate anything and everything we could that we didn't think was an absolute positive just priority. And we were trying to do this, in conjunction with the committee. Phenomenal, meetings and lots of discussion. I'm sorry I'm taking so long here. So I don't want you to think that we're coming to you to change this. This is absolutely 100% fiscal court's prerogative and decision. We're not pushing one way or the other. From an ESG and what we do from the energy efficiency side, we believe it's the right thing to do, but it doesn't mean it's the only right thing to do. So this is entirely up to the fiscal court. If you want to use your contingency, you have it in the budget. We were trying to think to do the right thing in the future. And all the comments that have made about the positives are absolutely true. The cost is there. It's a fact. So we will adjust and adapt accordingly because we are very agile. ESG is, we'll handle it however you want us to. But I just want to make sure that you understand, we're not coming to you and say, oh, you need to change this. We were under the impression that was what the committee wanted, the fiscal court wanted to do. So we're bringing this to you sooner rather than later so we can go ahead and get the design, the installation, meter setup, and all the things that are required. That's all. So again, that's ESG's perspective. and I'll be quiet.
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. You know, one thing I said when I came on the court is I didn't want to micromanage anybody. Is the jailer on by any chance? I mean, this is kind of his house. I'd be curious to see what he had to say.
Jake Bonner? I was. Jake Bonner, are you on? Taylor Bonner?
Okay.
Squire Blackburn?
Yeah, I had a question for Squire Moore. Squire Moore, how long y'all been doing excavation, heavy equipment using diesel equipment?
Since 1951.
That is outstanding. Y'all do a phenomenal job. How much of your equipment have you converted over to natural gas?
Well, that'd be impossible for us because we don't have anything that's stationary that stays in one spot. It's to move around, and there's no fueling stations in Franklin County anymore. I know Columbia Gas may have it, but nobody else. The state may have had one down on Warsaw, but there's nowhere you can buy natural gas on a mobile equipment.
Or even propane? Have you gone to propane on anything?
No, because there's road taxes on it, and it's too hard to keep up with. We've had a propane vehicle, but it's too hard to find fueling stations for that. Also, you can't just go to Lowe's and get a tank. It'd be illegal. There's road
Right.
taxes on that.
Well, I totally get both sides of it. I'm just still, you know, in my mind, I'm crunching numbers. You know, if they polish that fuel 4 times a year, that'd be just $2,000. If we spent $3,500 a year on a contract for 20 years on a maintenance contract, it would, I mean, and they guarantee it when they do that kind of stuff. So, you know,
I understand where you're coming from.
I'm caught on the money, but I understand it. I totally see it.
It's a lot of money, and I don't see why natural gas generators should be that much more. That's the one thing I don't understand in this, but it is what it is, and so I don't know what to tell you on that.
I understand. Thank you.
Squire Booth?
Okay, I want to say one more thing. I think the ESG is a business. It's an efficient business. They know what they're doing. I am sorry that we are having this discussion because it makes sense that the natural gas is better. I'm just upset, I guess, with my own fiscal court and my fellow magistrates that we did not insist that this be changed in the contract, because I remember Judge Barton asking for a little bit more time to write down the changes that we wanted, or the comments that we made. She wrote them all down. I remember that. So that's kind of why I'm surprised at this change order. So I am not going to stand in the way of this decision. I'm just concerned about the procedure and the fact that we have so little money to spend on changes. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you, Squire Booth. Anything else? Seeing nothing else, let's move to the next item. The next item on the agenda is authorization to install one street light on an existing utility pole at the intersection of Black Oak Drive, White Oak Drive, and add the new street light to the county multiplier. And this is through Kentucky Utilities. Mr. Hewitt?
Yes, thank you, Judge. The residents in the subdivision, as well as Squire Tracy, have inquired about the installation of a street light at the intersection of Black Oak and White Oak Drive. That's within the Ridgewood subdivision of the 4th Magisterial District. I reached out to Kentucky Utilities Engineering Division. They only now install LED lamps. There is an existing pole at that intersection. They would not charge for the installation of the light but would only charge for the monthly cost, which is roughly $9.92 a month. And I recommend approval and that it be added to the county multiplier. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Robert. Hey, quick question. Since this is KU and you made it a point to say they're not charging for an installation, we typically pay an installation in Frankfurt for a light bulb, correct?
Yes.
What does that usually run?
Well, it depends on if we have to run conduit, run a secondary to the pole, or if we have to do a cut or a bore. There's a lot of variables involved.
Okay, I'm just appreciative that KU is going to do it for free. So that's all I got. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Bluegrass Energy also requires that the county run the conduit and do all the trenching. So KU is, they practice differently than the other two providers that we normally deal with.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Hewitt, will this be an LED light?
Yes, sir, it will. They've changed over exclusively to LED.
Good. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. The next item on the, I'm sorry.
I do want to thank Mr. Hewitt. He goes through a lot of these light pole requests and does all the legwork for all of them. And well, I sure wish you could get all the utility companies to put them in for free. That'd make it easier. This one's a win-win. Thank you, Robert.
Nice. Amen. Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is authorization to approve appointment to the Franklin County Extension District Board, Agriculture and Natural Resource position. I was given the name of Rebecca Quarles, replacing Jeff Zinner, who has moved out of Franklin County. And I want to really say thanks to Mr. Zinner. He's been an excellent board member, and we were sorry to see him go, and we'll miss him dearly. Ms. Quarles was one of the recommendations that Mr. Bishop sent to me. Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. Yep, I know Ms. Quarles, and I'm excited that some young people in our community are interested in serving on our boards as an extension of us. And yeah, I think it's a positive thing. So thank you.
Squire Sebastian.
I thank you, Judge. I couldn't echo the comments of my companion here on the court any better. She will be absolutely fantastic. And we'll go with this, I think, with full gusto. And this demonstrates multiple perspectives. And I think that's what we're trying to get on our boards, trying to get a good mix of our community. And I think this is definitely a step in that direction.
Well, I hope you're not saying that those people that are already on there are a good mix too, because they are. They are very good people that are there serving. And so I'm sure Ms. Quarles and I'm excited about that.
Somehow you got that all jumbled up there.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, that's
what
how I interpreted, but I'm
that.
clarifying for you.
No, please don't.
Okay.
Because you're getting it all jumbled up. So the good thing is we continue to have people. All I'm saying is we have continued to have good people who want to serve on these boards. So I think she will make an excellent addition to the board. And, that's it. We just want a good cross section, and that's what we're shooting for. And that's what that's our goal. So thank you.
And that's what we got. Thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is authorization to approve. I'm sorry, Squire Blackburn.
I'm sorry, Judge. I didn't mean to interrupt you like that. I just wanted to say J.R. Zinner is magnificent. He's done a great job at Western Hills High School as their ag teacher. I think this application in front of us that you brought to us is outstanding. I think it's awesome. But I do want to ask, just like we do at all of them, did we have a lot of people apply?
Okay, so please understand, this is not that kind of board. This is a board that they apply through the extension office and not to me.
Okay.
Then Keenan.
Did they make that recommendation to you?
Keenan makes the recommendation and sends it to me.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's a good board. It's a really good board.
Yeah, they are.
First, very, very, very aggressive and thoughtful for the community. So, and Ms. Quarles will make a an excellent board member. Glad to have her. So the next item on the agenda is authorization to approve the budget transfer for fiscal year 2020, 2021 of federal funds of $100,000 for COVID small business grant program. You know, we've talked about that, but that will come in, I guess, after approval of that program or disapproval of that program, right,
We
Tamara?
need to go ahead and make the transfer now and fund the program.
Okay, all right. The next item on the agenda is authorization to receive the treasurer's quarterly report for period ending December 31st, 2020. Ms. Susan, and you've got a couple items.
Yes, Court, thank you. You have a quarterly report, the consolidated balance for all funds, 17,138,715 for the 6 months of fiscal year 2021. When you look at it on the surface as a bottom line comparison to the prior year, it's extraordinary, but we shouldn't lose sight of the reasons why it's so extraordinary. It's because we're in the middle of a disaster, and we have received federal disaster relief of some $2.3 million, as well as we've also made a commitment for some strategic capital improvements, and primarily the energy savings contract, as well as the investment in the new fire apparatus. So we borrowed $5.6 million or so. And then we also had, extraordinary, we had a positive savings from our refinancing the judicial center. So had some bond proceeds associated with that. So our revenues might are definitely skewed for the year, but that's why we have a fund accounting system in government. That's one of the reasons, so that you can separate and hopefully transparently report the one-time events versus the general obligations and missions of the county. So that being said, that's the whole number. One quick comment. I know we like to monitor our state revenue. The state revenue, we recognized obviously in the quarter ending 3/31, we had actually anticipated a downturn in that figure because a move in the state facilities and the state workforce. We had already budgeted and anticipated for that, but then the pandemic hit and we were concerned about some additional impacts, negative impacts. Overall, for the calendar year for the state, our receipts from the calendar year from the state are down by about $120,000. But because that first quarter of the calendar year was within the last fiscal year, the overall fiscal year impact is not as great. But we generally see that the state payroll has been about 15 or 16% of our overall payroll receipts. And just looking forward, because we had already made some anticipated adjustments, I don't see that that the overall budgetary impact is going to be as great, because we'd already anticipated it and factored that in. But nonetheless, for the fiscal year, our state revenue is down, and it will be reflected in the payroll tax numbers. So the biggest area of possible revenue impact is the jail, I would say, for sure, because of the population numbers being down. So that state population and state payment figure is down, and the federal population anticipated is down, as well as our jail contracts are down. So that's the biggest area in a mandated appropriation area of category of county business that we are showing a hit in revenue. And then of course we handle the pass-through revenue for the tourism, but that does not necessarily affect our overall bottom line, but it does make an appearance as a lower revenue number because we handle that and and transfer it over to the other agency. So I kind of incorporated that quarterly report into basically the treasurer's report. I'll just say that our implementation of the new software has been a little bit delayed for obviously the pandemic. And then also we had some computer setup issues to overcome and deal with. But we do have another training tomorrow, and I'm still remain very excited about the opportunity for some more data analytics and reporting options that are going to hopefully will be adept enough at using the program to be able to provide some additional information. But I already see some results of the opportunity for some quicker, well, I'll say quicker, I won't say quick, but quicker information reports for us as tools for revenue and expense forecasting for our budget season coming up.
Barr Booth?
I was wondering why we had Department for Local Government headers on some of the reports that we are receiving.
The report that was included in the packet were excerpts of the reconciliation and the summary that we submit to the state. We have a pre-formatted template that we're supposed to use for the state reporting, and that's just to show that our system reporting coincides with the state reporting and to report to fiscal court in that same format.
Okay.
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Hey, Susan, thanks for that presentation tonight. You know, you're my numbers lady. I'm a Cliff Notes kind of guy. If we were to pull all those federal funds out, how do you feel? Beginning of January, end of January, you know, you've been very optimistic all year. How do you feel overall about where we are?
I still remain guardedly optimistic about basically I'm doing a comparison from prior years and trying to strip out the anomalies, but I just identified the biggest area that we're down, and that's the jail receipts. And that is clearly a concern because that is a mandated operation, and it does not, the offsets for any kind of revenue are, clearly related to the population. So there's, there's still a big concern there that's not going to bounce back, and we have to fund that regardless of whether we have to fund it regardless. So that's, that obligation. But then as far as our business community and our payroll, again, I've commented before, we have a mix that provides us some cushion. We don't have all of our eggs in one basket, and hopefully that industry development and with in particular the distilleries. I mean, once again, that's been our a big safety net for Franklin County. So that's where one is down, another is up. It's unfortunate for those that are down, and thankful for the your Mr. Mueller and the judge and the other magistrate and Tracy and the other magistrates who may commit money for the business grants, the small business grants, to provide some relief there where it's needed. So, but as far as the county operations go, our best plan, and we should be committed to keeping the community's tax base healthy, and in order to continue the services that we provide with the fire department and a police force and county garbage collection, those don't come without a price tag. And you heard quite a bit of comment about retirement, just in respect to the tourism. And we are a big user of the retirement system because of our hazardous duty, and that's not gone away. So we have to be very careful with our planning our use of funds and preserving preserve our reserve, I would say. And that's one of the things that has enabled us to be more comfortable during, as far as being able to spend money during the pandemic and response up front, because in a disaster, you have to be capable of spending money up front and sustaining the disaster with a reserve or money in the bank. And we've fortunately been able to have a savings that we've been able to do that. So it's not over. It continues. Don't know where the federal policy is going to go. So I would just say we just need to stay prepared, just remain prepared in the way that we have going forward.
Susan, thank you very much, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Squire Muller.
Yeah.
Squire Booth.
To commend you on the uncollected column in the receipt, the revenue report. That helps me to see our situation.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Good to know.
Okay, any other questions for Susan? Susan, you got it?
That's it, Judge, unless there's other questions.
All right. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute.
Susan?
There is another question, Squire Blackburn.
I did have a question. You know, like it says on the delinquent property taxes, we've collected 107%. Is it from taxes from 2 years prior, or, I mean, how do we collect more than 100%? I need an education.
Well, it's a percentage of what we budget. So I believe we've heard over the past several years that we thought delinquent taxes would go down and go down and go down because of the nature of the way the bills are being sold and so forth, and people paying so well in Franklin County. So it's just a measure against the budget amount.
What we budgeted. I got you. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, anything else? All right, payment of claims. Are there any, Squire Sebastian?
Yes, thank you, Judge. I was just wondering how frequently the use of faxed materials, either from out externally that our county staff faxes out and that we receive in, are we still getting a large volume of faxed material in, or are we transitioning in this electronic age to getting more scanned documents? And I don't know if there are requirements where we have to maintain dedicated faxes in specific offices. It seems like we have a lot of fax machines out there that are high performance fax machines. And so I was wondering if we need that much high performance power and that volume of fax machines to continue to do county business. Thank you in advance for whoever can answer.
Amber, you want to answer?
Rick, the county attorney has.
County attorney, you want to? Okay.
Squire and folks, I'm assuming that our office is rather par for the course on faxing. We're finding that faxing is becoming obsolete, but there are certain transmittals that you cannot do by PDFs because of the ability to modify PDFs electronically, etc. So I know, at least in our office, there's a number of things that we have to submit by fax that we don't submit and are required by other agencies that we don't submit via photos or scans, etc. If they require original documents, those have to be faxed. So I don't want to speak to the obsolescence of other people's fax machines, and maybe it'll get there. I think in the last year, we've seen technological advances with remote meetings, etc. Just, went light speed from where we were 2 years ago or even 6 months ago. But certainly they're still a vital part of doing business, especially when you're dealing with original documents, etc. There are just things that you can't duplicate and you can't manipulate, much like as opposed to a computer scan, etc. So I was just letting you know the utility on what we do with their faxes. We use a heck of a lot of faxes for that reason.
Understood. just asking if there's a need to have two physically, I guess, in the 321 offices. Certainly we have one in planning and zoning, I think, and there's one in the judge's office. And my question really kind of gets to, if we have two in a similar space right now,
Fair
are
enough.
we still transmitting so much material through them? Because, do we need to? I'm only asking for that reason. Because like you
I
said,
knew we
the-
had a bill in there of my fax, and all I can say is I only have one. So I'll
yeah, I know
defer to
you
everybody else. Okay.
absolutely understand when you
Um,
have a unit that has one. I'm just asking, in places in a physical space where we may have two, does it still rise to the level of the volume for the need for two? That's the only
yeah.
question on the table. Thank you very much in advance for whoever can answer that.
I can address the county judge's office and the planning and zoning office, and probably the human resources office. The human resources office, like the county judge's office, receives confidential information. So we do need to keep those fax machines separate from the others. And the fax machine, they're not standalone fax machines. They are built into our copy machines. I'm not aware of any of our county offices that actually have standalone fax machines. So these are built into that. What you're seeing in the bills is the service for it. When we changed over to the VoIP system with Avaya, that's why we started incurring those charges. And that's just a pass-through charge to McAllen to cover those. But we do not receive many faxes. The faxes we receive are usually confidential and pretty important. And there are some agencies, for whatever reason, are still transmitting documents by fax and want them returned by fax. I'm not a fan of fax, but it seems to not want to go away.
Okay. All right. With that question answered, thank you. Let's go to other business. Squire Tracy, you got some other business?
I do. Thank you, Judge. Quick question. On Monday, the governor announced a $38 million utility assistance fund. I think DLG is going to manage it along with the ad districts. I believe it's up to $200,000 for the city and county. Is that-
Correct.
do you know, are we in the process of applying for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we've
Okay.
been talking about it, but I'll let Ann Northcutt talk to you about where we are with it, because
Thank
yeah,
you.
we've been talking about it.
Okay.
Ann
Thank you, Judge.
Northcutt?
Yes, I've been corresponding with both the ad district and DLG and Rebecca Hall at the city. It's a little bit premature. We haven't got the fact sheets out that the Bluegrass ad, who is going to be administering the grants for all the cities and counties, at least in the Bluegrass ad district. I'm sure probably that's what's being handled across all the ads. So they're doing, all the counties and all the cities in their district. So it's a little bit early because they haven't worked out all the logistics yet, but we'll be working, they'll be letting us know how the applicants and who the applicants will go through. And then we have to get agreements set up with some of the utilities. So there's a lot to be worked out, but yes, we are pursuing that. And I've talked to Rebecca, we're going to try and mirror our processes so that we're all very clear on what's going on within the city limits and within the county and out in the county. So yes, we're pursuing that.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Squire Booth?
I wanted to know if anyone had an opinion on the open records request procedure that KCDC has instituted. It has been in the news lately, and I have had at least one call about it. I guess someone that wanted open records. There is a person in the Attorney General's office that I have met in my years in state government. And I remember her, and she was very critical of the procedure. And I wondered if anyone in this court had an opinion on that open records request, including our counselor.
Ma'am, it would be extremely inappropriate for me to comment on the internal procedures from another agency. All I know about it is what I read in the paper. And I have no dog in that fight one way or the other. They've got extremely competent counsel, and I hope they run up the chain, and I wish them the best of luck, but I'm not going down that morass. So
Okay.
I'll defer to KCDC to handle their own internal stuff. You know, I got enough on my plate in this particular circus, ma'am. I'll let them deal with their own.
All right. Just brought it up.
Squire Muller?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused, counsel, because I thought in the paper it said that you were in on the discussion along with the city attorney. Is that not true?
Yeah, you probably read it online. It's like what they say. George Washington said everything you read on the internet's true, but no, sir, I've had no involvement with that process up or down ever.
All right, thank you.
Good to know.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Squire Muller.
Are we still in other business, Judge?
Yes, sir.
All right, can I buzz down a couple? And I know we're doing pretty good on time, so I'm not going to hold us. First, I'd like to thank the road department. You know, we had a pretty good snow that turned into a lot of ice last night, and it was pretty messy. So it wasn't an easy one, so I'd just like to thank them on record. Next one is I spoke with Jim Beam today. They're still in the process of taking the dam out on the Elkhorn Creek. They're having a meeting next week. I think they're running a little bit behind, but that's still going to be happening. Exciting thing for Park Committee and the whole fiscal court is the park RFP is out, and those are due February 10th, and I believe we're going to do a 2 o'clock opening. So couldn't be more excited about that. Last thing, Judge, I guess I'll ask maybe you or Mr. Hewitt is, and I appreciate Robert getting the information back to us on some real estate that we've been asking about. So I guess my question to you is that something we could go into session tonight and discuss as a court?
Yeah. About property acquisition, we can.
I mean, if we can do it, that'd be great. I just thought I'd throw it out there, and that's all I have, Judge.
If we do that, we can, that can move some things forward quicker. Let's put it that way.
I like it that way. Let's roll.
You all, has everybody received the document on the parcels?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you all be Squire Muller? Are you saying that you would like to go into closed session?
I mean, I can make a motion for it, Judge, if that's the protocol. If somebody will maybe second it, you know.
Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second.
Well, I think we need to do that in the vote session, though.
Okay.
Not in the work
okay.
session.
All right. So let's do that in the voting session. Sorry. I was following you. I liked your idea so much.
Yeah.
Just following you.
Absolutely.
Great idea. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we'll do that in the voting session. Thank you. Okay. Let's go to constitutional officers. Any constitutional officers got a report? Department reports.
Hey, Judge, it's Brittany.
Oh, hey, Brittany.
Good evening, court. I'm just on to answer any questions if you guys had regarding the information that went out regarding residential trash.
Squire Blackburn.
Is this in regards to the letters that we received?
Yes, Squire. I basically just wanted to pop on and quell any possible concerns. Right now, there is absolutely no action that we need to take. We have, or I have been in contact with both a representative from Central Kentucky Hauling, as well as the county attorney. And we we've discussed that, Central Kentucky Hauling fully intends to honor their existing contract. They are actively researching alternative disposal sites should the Central Kentucky landfill in Scott County have to cease operations at the end of October. So as I mentioned, there should be no changes at all. It is entirely their responsibility to locate and secure alternative disposal sites for Franklin County's waste to go to. So I'm actively working with them, anything I can provide, and staying on top of any information that comes through from them.
For Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. In this document that we have that we approved a couple of years ago, year and a half ago, on page 6, under 1.6 disposal facilities, they have agreed to an alternate disposal facility if the primary facility becomes unusable. So my presumption is, in reading this document, that they will honor it because they have this alternate disposal facility already mentioned in another community. Also, I wondered about when, and this is a question, I guess, so Brittany, if you can answer, or Madam Solid Waste Coordinator, if you can answer that, that would be helpful. And then I have a question for the county attorney about where the force majeure clause would kick in, which is on page 14, 3.27, because this is potentially governmental ordered. So I don't know which clause I'm talking about supersedes the other.
Yes, Squire. So this alternate disposal facility is listed in our contract. They are so that is a facility that is permitted and will accept Franklin County waste. They are also just in the process of locating additional facilities throughout the state, as an additional backup plan.
So Mr. County Attorney, where does the force majeure clause kick in? Does it supersede the contract that we already have in some ways? Because the government, they have agreed to an alternate site. They agreed to that up front. So if their primary site is shut down, and our solid waste coordinator has indicated that they're going to honor their contract, and so they're looking now for a plan C, sounds like, because we're potentially could move to plan B here. So just wanted to check on that to see if I don't necessarily know that the force majeure kicks in other than shutting down what's in Georgetown and Scott County.
Well, first of all, let me remind the court that the agreement we've got with CKY is a hauling contract. It's not a disposal contract. They're obligated to haul and collect Franklin County garbage and take it to somewhere. The somewhere is wherever they agree to do it as a business or an entity. They're also required, as one of the terms of their contract, to provide adequate assurances that they can perform the contract, specifically under section, let me sign that again. Section 3.44, provide written evidence verifying that Franklin County waste can be disposed somewhere upon the selection and specifying of the primary and alternate disposal sites. It's a hauling contract. It's not a disposal contract. Force majeure references tornadoes, terrorism,
Acts of
not
the
about,
government, but it's an
pardon
act
me?
of the and an act of the government, because it specifies.
No, this wouldn't fall into the act of the government thing, because the act of the government in question, no ma'am, because the act of the government does not affect the performance of this contract. The performance of this contract is to haul air trash somewhere. So no, that's a nice hair to split, but it doesn't fly. Force majeure of closing down the Scott County one has nothing to do with whether or not they're obligated to haul air trash somewhere.
which is why I asked earlier about the alternate site, because they have 2 locations listed. So you're flying, I'm not splitting the hair. I'm asking you, it should still be in place because they've listed 2 locations for the hauling.
Yeah, but you referenced the force majeure clause. This is not a force majeure because that's a permissible defense to cancel the contract. There's not been a force majeure action.
Okay, so the action by the environmental protection won't have any effect, and maybe I'm
Not
not
on
trying.
air contract, not on air contract with
Okay.
CKY. That's correct, man. Because
Okay,
that's what I was
perfect.
pointing out at the beginning. Air contract and just, yeah, air contract is a hauling contract. Just
Mhm.
because that business shut down that they hauled to has nothing to do, nor is it classified as force majeure that would affect our hauling. Force
Okay.
majeure would be like they can't take the trash out because the flood or whatever.
I just wanted to be
It's
sure.
a hauling contract. This isn't a landfill contract.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure that they weren't going to, the company wasn't going to try to utilize that. If there was a way to utilize that to get out of 1.6 at the beginning. That's absolutely.
I haven't heard anything that made me think that CKY was trying to get out of anything. They've
Okay,
complied
good.
with their, yeah, what they've done is just given us notice like they're required to do that this thing shut down. And this is how they're going to handle it. And we're allowed to ask them for written specification as to not only the site, but the alternative.
Okay,
And
so if
we
they,
haven't, but be cool. We haven't got that yet. All we got is a really great letter saying we intend to find another place. We still have to get that provision satisfied once they identify the place and the alternate under
But-
section 3.
if they've already identified an alternate in this document on page 6, they've identified that.
I'm not satisfied they've identified the provisions of 3 because it requires the disposal plus an alternate. And all we got was a really good feel-good letter saying we tend to find it and we'll let you know. I think we need a tighter response, frankly.
Hey, okay, I'm going with you then. Cool. I'm going with the tighter response. I want it too. Thank you.
Yeah, I want a location and an alternate is required by under 3 because they have to have a location and an alternate, and that we don't have that yet. But I do like the way they talk. At least they indicate they're working on it, but they're required to comply with that with specificity.
Okay. Are there any other questions from departmental report? Okay, Squire Blackburn.
Yeah, I had a question on this. I totally get it. It's just a hauling contract. I do know that in that contract we got a discount on franchise fee because of the location that they were dumping it. When that goes away, we're not going to have that franchise fee. And I guess the contract states that the cost stays the same for us, and they're the ones that's going to have to eat that franchise fee.
Yes.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Sorry about that. Sometimes this button doesn't click on as quickly. This is just a quick question for our solid waste coordinator. In this agreement, and this brings up a point for us just to all be cognizant of, is do we know where Franklin County is with its waste diversion goal of 50% for 2021? I mean, are we on? I know we're a month in. But I'm assuming that's FY rather than calendar year. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out where we are, because we've certainly had a number of obstacles put in front of us, just like other communities going through this worldwide pandemic. And thank you in advance.
So in calendar year 2020, we, through recycling alone, are at about a 20% diversion rate. If you give me just a minute, in 2019, there we go. Okay, in 2019, we actually had a decrease in our landfill diversion rate, and that was primarily due to Lexington's material recovery facility shutting down for a specific period of time in 2019. So with the addition of yard waste, we had a landfill diversion rate of only about 18% in 2019. I do not yet have all the numbers. I'm in the process of putting together our annual report for 2020, and should have those numbers by next court, so we can further discuss that then. But I'm anticipating somewhere around probably in the 20 to 24% diversion rate. Only again, now due to COVID, we had a period of time where we were not collecting yard waste. And with most people home, there was additional trash produced that was picked up curbside. So we'll have a final number on that by next court. And from what I understand, that initial diversion rate, or that diversion rate that we discuss, is actually a bit arbitrary. It was put on our solid waste management plan as a goal. We are actively working towards that goal, but a lot of communities don't get anywhere near that at the moment.
Okay, Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. I would just like to tell the court, I'm on the task force with Brittany, and I know this letter took me by surprise also. It's kind of shocking. But one really good thing is that task force that she has is very active. So I think we'll be hearing a lot more in the coming meetings about what's going on. So that's a positive thing. So no, that's it. Thank you, Brittany.
Okay, good. Thank you, Squire. Anything else? Squire Moore. Squire Moore.
I just wanted to comment on the Site B and Site C. The way I understand it, if they have a Site B, and if they go to that, then they have to have an alternate. So that's, in my thinking, why they're looking for a third place. And I'm just thinking out loud here, if they were to go to Franklin County, I don't think they will, but that would enhance our host agreement, I would think. Be money back to the county.
Right, that's why I referred to it as, just to say that I believe that they need to respond under the contract with a higher degree of specificity to show their what would be Plan B and C. We had Plan A and B. Now we still need to add the secondary one as well.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, and looks like it's we're going to say it's 8 o'clock. Let's take a 5-minute break. At 5 minutes after 8, I expect everybody to be back, and we'll go into the voting session.
Judge, I'm sorry, I had one other announcement.
Okay, go ahead, Brittany.
I wanted to bring to the court's attention and bring to the community's attention that I have received grant funding for the litter abatement grant for calendar year 2021. So our Trash for Cash program is going to be accepting applications again here shortly. The date for signups is going to be on February 17th. It's a Wednesday. It's an online sign up. The link will open at 9 a.m. and will actually be open for 24 hours this year. It is a lottery system, so it's luck of the draw. Groups should be 501c3 nonprofits, school groups, and some governmental organizations do qualify. You must be registered in Franklin County, so you must have a home base in Franklin County. And I'm asking this year that groups that sign up have your W-9 on hand, ready to go to upload to this form. Groups that participated last year are ineligible for this year. So I encourage anybody and everybody to sign up. I mean, I think we had 24 groups participate last year, and I'm aiming to get about the same amount of groups for this year. Or at least to provide for the same amount of groups this year. So just wanted to make that clear. I'll be sharing the sign up link on our county Facebook pages. It's actually already up on the solid waste page. I'll share it to the county website. There'll be a link with a QR code in the paper. And if anyone goes to it now, it will not be accepting responses. It will not turn on until that sign up date, February 17th at 9 a.m. So that's the only other thing I wanted to mention.
All right, good news. Brittany, thank you for that news. Okay. What? Oh, Squiremore. Sorry.
So ordinarily, do you alternate years, or is this just a new thing where people have been doing this for years won't be eligible?
If you did it the year prior, you're ineligible. The current year is something that was in place. My first year in this position, I ended the position in 2019. That year we actually didn't have any litter cleanup, or any concerted litter cleanup efforts. So this is something, it kind of gives everybody a chance. And in those years prior to my involvement in this position, it was first come, first serve. And that kind of seemed a little bit more unfair. So we tried to, in discussing it, we tried to make it a little bit more accessible to everybody and a little bit more fair.
So Brittany, to piggyback on what Lambert Squiremore is saying, if you had 24 this past year, are there 24 more? Do you know for sure there's going to be 24 more people or 20 other people that are going to apply for this? And if not, why wouldn't we take some of those from the prior year to make sure that we get the whole slots, all the slots filled? I don't know.
Last year, I had about 30 groups sign up initially, and I was only expecting to fill about 15 positions, and I figured the rest of the funding from the state would be utilized towards education purposes and equipment and any other kind of advertising regarding litter. With COVID, I wasn't really able to get out into the community and spread any kind of educational messages. So that allowed me to pursue more funding towards these groups. And, all in all, it's a better opportunity for these groups to raise money for their organizations. So I already have a few groups who unfortunately, decided to postpone their cleanups, and we thought that was a fair, a good thing to do with COVID. So I have about 4 or 5 groups that did not feel comfortable doing their group cleanup that are going to do their cleanup this year. So that still leaves about 20 spots open. And I've had quite a few groups call me over the last 8 months that have said, when are you going to open signups again? I missed out this time. And each school has so many different sports teams or, different clubs that need funding. So there are definitely a lot of groups that I feel like we could hit that 2024 mark with completely new blood. And if not, I'll put a call out to other groups as needed.
Squire Tracy.
Judge, just one quick question. Brittany, you mentioned that this was a lottery selection. If it's a lottery selection, wouldn't that take care of who gets selected? Some win, some lose. It's kind of like going to a concert. Sometimes you get the luck of the lottery to get a ticket, and sometimes you don't. But so wouldn't that take care of it? It sounds like that. I'm not quite sure if the lottery is an accurate word, that how these people are being selected. If you're going to keep, and I'm not saying it's the right thing or wrong thing to do. I understand why you're wanting to do it. But is it a true lottery is how they're being selected, or is it in the past it's just been the first to sign up get it, and the ones at the tail end that they don't?
You're right. I may be using the wrong word. But in the past, yeah, it was first come, first serve. And that we were seeing the same people sign up for it within the first 15, 20 minutes if I go back through the files. So that is what prompted if you received funding, last year, you're ineligible this year. And I just thought that there's still enough interest in the community, and there are still enough groups that I kind of feel like we should continue that. So if it'd be better for me to change that wording, I certainly will. But I do just go through the groups that do sign up or fill out the sign up, and go ahead and all the names go into a bucket, and I walk around the office, and everybody helps pick out a slip.
Right. And what you're wanting to do is not the first time that this has been discussed. I know before Blair left, this was something that was on her radar. She actually spoke of it. The same groups every year getting to do it, and it was leaving people out. So again, this isn't the first time it's been discussed.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, seeing nobody else, now it's 10 after 8, and so let's go to 8:15, and let's come back. I don't know who's saying that.
This is Jake at the jail. I apologize. I had to step away. I understand there was a question about a generator. I want to make sure I make myself available. I'm sorry.
All right.
I think we're past that.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I
Okay,
signed
the
back
question
on.
was, are you in favor of a natural gas supply generator, or you in favor of a diesel supply generator? I guess that's basically the question.
Judge, I'll defer to the committee and Robert, whatever, as long as I get a good one. I mean, natural gas seems like it's less maintenance, but I'll defer to the committee.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jake. Thanks for coming on. And we're good now. What? Yes.
I think you were going to ask Robert for a report
On.
his year-end report.
Oh, Robert, do you, I'm sorry, Robert, do you have a report, a year-end report that you can do very quickly? I think you showed that to me, and I forgot about that. Thanks, Tamara. That I think the magistrates would like to see, as well as the community.
Yes, sir. It's very brief. Mr. Tippett, could you allow me to screen share, please? So is my screen viewable to everyone?
Yes, or here it is.
Okay.
You're good, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Tippett. So this brief report has been provided by the chief building official, Greg Owens. It shows a comparison for the last 8 years. What's unique about this is during a pandemic in 2020, we have issued more single-family permits and more general permits than any time in the last 8 years. So we're at 104 single-family dwellings and 240 total permits. The 104 single-family dwellings does not include the 15 single-family homes issued under a farmstead exemption. So we're at 119 single-family homes. One more slide, basically to reflect funding, is that for the permits total under normal local conditions, we have a revenue of $66,356.98. We do not charge for farmstead exemptions, but we did incorporate by vote of the court expanded jurisdiction, and within 2 projects from July of 2020 to December 2020, we generated revenue of $15,489.20. So I just want to show that permits are up, revenue is up, and we continue to stay very busy, and I project that forecast to continue into 2021. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions for Robert? Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Not a question. Just can that document, those documents or screen shares, can they actually be shared with the court at after the meeting, please? Thank you very much.
Yes, I will send that out after the meeting.
Squire Booth? Can't hear you, Squire Booth.
The expanded jurisdiction, is that the new payment schedule that your department came up with? Is that what you mean by expanded jurisdiction? Explain it to me again. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. It was a twofold amendment. The court agreed to accept expanded jurisdiction from the state, so that we provide building plan review and inspection for buildings that are not high hazard or institutional, that were previously reviewed by the state, that exceed 10,000 square feet in area or 100 occupancy. And then the county adopted the building fee schedule within the Kentucky Building Code. So those are revenues and activities by your local inspector as a result of that action.
That's commendable.
Yes, thank you. And then we just permitted another project this week that generated just a hair under $9,000, and that was submitted to the treasurer yesterday. So within the last 7 months, we're roughly $25,000 in revenue from that single employee with their certification.
Okay.
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Hey, Robert, thank you for the report. I know you were kind of rushed. When we're getting on those big jobs with that one employee, how's our backlog looking? Are we still taking care of all the contractors that are calling for, inspections and things like that? Is all that still running, or is it taking a while to get to everybody?
I've not received any complaints. My inspector is working very hard. I do anticipate the need for some additional staff on a part-time basis. This was discussed prior to the request for expanded jurisdiction. There are additional projects, large projects in the pipeline that I can't discuss right now. But at this point, up to this point, I've not received any complaints of any delays for building inspections.
No, and don't think that I was suggesting that. I was just curious. So thank you.
No, I appreciate your comment. It's a good question.
Squire Moore?
Something I failed to discuss earlier with the utility company coming through my district. I know your office and the the occupational tax office has been in contact with them. Is that going good? They get everybody registered and get their business licenses?
You want to speak to that, Tim?
Yes, Squire. I verified that today. The business license was issued, and the permit or the permit number has been provided to the contractor. I believe it was Quantum is the sub.
Okay, any other questions? 8:15. Now we're coming back at 8:20. Okay, we're in recess. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here tonight. This is the January 28th, 2021 voting session for the Franklin County Fiscal Court. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Squire Sebastian,
Here.
Squire Blackburn,
Present.
Squire Muller,
Present.
Squire Tracy,
Here.
Squire Booth,
Present.
Squire Moore,
Here.
Judge Wells,
Here. And we're honored tonight to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by several Bridgeport Elementary School students. So Andrew, will you play that? And thank you, Bridgeport Elementary students.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, students. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Those were students
Judge,
from
I was a
Bridgeport
Bridgeport
Elementary
Tiger
School.
myself.
Pardon me, sir?
I was
Pardon
a
me?
Bridgeport Tiger myself.
I know it. We heard about that, but I won't tell you all that I heard there, Squire Moore.
Judge, I feel bad. We kept all those kids up so late to watch that.
Well, I know it. They didn't have school today, so I guess they got plenty of rest. Hopefully so anyway. Okay. Well, thanks to those students, and let's now move to the first item, and that's authorization for approval of amended minutes from our regular meeting of January the 8th, 2021.
So moved.
Moved by Squire Booth.
Second.
Seconded by Squire Blackburn. Discussion. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes, the next item is authorization to receive the audited financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2020 for the Franklin County Tourist and Convention Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. The next item is authorization to receive the county clerk's quarterly report for quarter ending December 31st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, I saw Blackburn. I couldn't tell whose voice it was. Okay,
Yeah.
Blackburn. Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. And with a happy grin, the next item is authorization to receive the county clerk's partial payment of $800,000 in excess fees for 2020.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Got it. Everybody at one time on that one.
Second.
All right, you got that? All right. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes, the next item is authorization to approve an order for the continuation bond for Jailer Bonta.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Seconded by Squire Tracy. Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
I'd like to thank the jailer during these tough times. I think he's doing a great job for our community. Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. The next item is the first reading of an ordinance adopting the Code of Ordinances for the County of Franklin, revising, amending, restating, codifying, compiling certain existing general ordinances of the county dealing with subjects embraced in the code. The vote will be on February the 19th. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution authorizing a small business grant program for businesses in the unincorporated area of Franklin County.
So moved.
Squire Tracy and then seconded by Squire Moore. Is that okay? Okay. Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Um, y- you know, I think this is fantastic. opportunities that give our local small businesses the opportunities to survive. They get to employ our neighbors. They get to feed their families like mine, who has a small business. They keep the wheels of our local economy moving. And that has never been more critical than this. So with that, I'm a very enthusiastic yes.
Square Blackburn,
My vote is yes, and I just wish we could have done it sooner.
Square Muller,
Yes.
Square Tracy,
Yes.
Square Booth,
Yes.
Square Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, and the starting date for application will be Monday, February 1st. The application will need to be filled out entirety with all the information that's required. And it will be posted Monday on our Facebook. And so we encourage all the small businesses that meet the criteria for this application of funds. We encourage you to apply, and we will get hopefully be able to get monies to you after our February 19th meeting. So it's exciting, and as Squire Sebastian said, and the other squires have said, our small businesses are a backbone in this community, and we're proud of you. And I know this is not a lot, but this is a little bit to say thank you, and we're trying to do what we can to help you. God bless you for staying in business and doing what you can. Yes. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution in support of submission of an application for grant funds with the United States Department of Homeland Security and Federal Emergency Management Agency's 2021 Assistance to Firefighters Grant.
So moved.
Squire
Second.
Sebastian, seconded by Squire Blackburn. Discussion, call the roll.
Square Sebastian,
Yes.
Square Blackburn,
Yes.
Square Muller,
Yes.
Square Tracy,
Yes.
Square Booth,
Yes.
Square Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, the next item is authorization to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Georgetown, Scott County to delineate the authority, roles, and procedures for agency personnel to use intra-jurisdictional interoperability radio channels.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Or in other words, to talk to each other. Okay, you got that? All right, call the roll.
Square Sebastian,
Yes.
Square Blackburn,
Yes.
Square Muller,
Yes.
Square Tracy,
Yes.
Square Booth,
Yes.
Square Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, the next item is authorization for approval of a change order number 1 relating to the Guaranteed Energy Savings Performance Contract for various county buildings.
I'd like to make a motion to go with the green energy saving natural gas generator for the jail.
Second.
And seconded by Squire Tracy. Discussion? Call the roll.
Square Sebastian,
Yes.
Square Blackburn,
I'd like to explain my vote. I think it's the right thing to do, and I think we went about it the wrong way. I think we could have taken the time to gotten it right on the contract, and that way we'd have a fully intact contingency for things coming up. That concerns me moving forward, but I think it's the right thing, so I vote yes.
Square Muller,
First, I'd like to thank the Energy Committee. I think it's probably been one of the busiest committees. There's a lot of moving parts here. I don't think there's right and wrong here, but as far as long-term, what's best, not just the quickest and easiest, I'm a yes.
Square Tracy,
I'd like to say the committee has truly worked hard to get here and or to get there to the finish line. And again, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think Judge Wells said it best. You can't look back. You can't wait for something to happen or look back and wish we would have done it. It makes sense. I mean, the jail shut down 2 days, 1 day. It could mean the difference, all the difference in the world. So with that being said, I'll vote yes.
Square Booth,
I'd like to repeat almost exactly what Squire Blackburn said about our decisions and procedures, and I vote yes.
Squire Moore,
Well, the votes are there. I can vote no on this, but I'll go green and say yes.
You better not vote no, because you're the one that changed everybody's opinion on it. We'd all gone one way, and then you said, no, don't do that. So we listened to
I
you.
appreciate it.
did he vote yes?
He
I couldn't
voted
hear him
yes.
over
He
the
voted yes.
laughing.
Yes, he did.
Okay,
He did.
Judge Wells,
I think I appreciate the court. I do think this is a solution to a problem that we hope never happens, but if it does, it's there to cover us and to keep the jail running in the worst of times. And so I think we've all made the decision, and we'll move forward with this. And I know it wasn't easy, but thank you for your discussions. Thank you for your true thoughts and working on this. And the ends, we hope we'll never have to worry about it again, but we know that there's security there. So I vote yes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is authorization to install one street light on an existing utility pole at the intersection of Black Oak Drive, White Oak Drive, and add the new street light to the county multiplier. And this is by Kentucky Utilities.
So moved.
Squire Tracy. Squire Muller, seconded. Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
I'd like to personally thank Kentucky Utilities for doing this at no cost to us, and all we have to do is pay for the electric bill. And I'm a resounding yes. It's a win-win.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. The next item is authorization to approve the appointment of Rebecca Quarles to the Franklin County Extension District Board Agricultural Natural Resources position for a term expiring on December 31st, 2022, replacing Jeff Zinner, who has resigned.
So moved.
So moved.
Muller and then Blackburn.
Or Scotty, either one, it doesn't matter.
All right. So it's you, Squire Tracy. I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter, Judge.
It doesn't matter. I'll second it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
All right. You got it? You got it?
yeah, I've got, Squire Muller and Squire Blackburn.
All right.
Is that good?
That's good.
Okay.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yeah, I think that demonstrates the court's enthusiasm with everybody wanting to be part of this motion, that we're definitely getting great people to apply for these boards. So with that, I'm enthusiastic, yes.
Squire Blackburn,
I want to thank everybody that even applies for a board. Just putting yourself out there is a part of your time and energy and effort and your intellect. And I'm thankful, and I'm thankful for Ms. Quarles applying, and I'm a resounding yes.
Squire Muller,
For the record, she does live in District 3. So, but I would also like to thank the gentleman that is stepping down. Anybody who's willing to serve, I just want to say thank you. So, yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Well, this is the second time I'm going to quote Squire Blackburn. He
Whoa,
said
be
exactly
careful.
what I wanted to say, and I vote yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Wow, Squire Blackburn, you're going down in
You
the
see?
history here.
Bless your heart, Marty. Bless your heart, Marty.
I'm going to quote Squire Blackburn and Squire Booth, and I'm going to vote yes, but I'm going to add this caveat, and the person Ms. Quarles is replacing is Jeff Zinner, and he's done an excellent job. He and his family are just great people in our community, and I'm sorry to see Mr. Zinner move out of Franklin County and to our neighbor in the south. I understand maybe Anderson County, but there'll always be a spot for you, Mr. Zinner, if you ever want to come back. So with that being said, I vote yes.
Judge, I thought you were going to say he was a student of yours.
Oh, God.
Not this time.
I'm from here.
I was trying to think. I was trying to think, but no. All right, the next item is authorization to approve budget transfer of the federal fund in the amount of $100,000 for fiscal year 2021.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. This is for the monies to pay the businesses, and we're all excited about that. So with that being said, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Squire Moore, I don't know why you didn't say I'm gonna follow.
Abstain.
Say the same thing that Squire Booth said. Oh, yes.
No, I'm not going to apply, Judge. I need to, but I'm not going to.
All right.
Did you vote? Judge?
I voted yes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The next item is authorization to receive the treasurer's quarterly report prepared ending December 31st, 2020.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Blackburn, Sebastian.
Blackburn and Sebastian, thank you. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is authorization to receive the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Squire Booth, I think.
Yes.
Sebastian, motion seconded by Squire Booth.
Okay.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is payment of claims. Is there a motion offered to deny any payment of any of the claims? Seeing no motion, the claims are to be ordered to be paid. The next item is authorization to amend the agenda to add closed session authorization.
So moved.
Squire Muller,
Second.
Squire Tracy,
Okay.
call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, the next item is authorization to go into closed session per KRS 61.810, section 1, section B, deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency when publicity would be likely to affect the value of the property.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Muller. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Is there a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Squire Sebastian, seconded by Squire Moore. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Squire Booth, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Great meeting, everybody. Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes, we're a cohesive group. I vote yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.